whatever.
So like conspiracy theory mindsets, is that kind of topic?
Well, no, I don't know, because conspiracy, I mean, I think this
Used
whole
to be.
conspiracy thing's Americanized. It's kind of like
Well,
Hollywood.
you used to be a conspiracy theorist, didn't you, Sly? Like what? Quite a
No,
while
I
back.
still am, but I understand
Oh.
the dictionary definition. To conspire is not something that's weird.
I did not know you were a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I don't like people who are tinfoil hattery conspiracy theorists. I believe that people do conspire to do crazy shit. Now, whether we can get the truth about it, that's another story altogether. But it's not like I'm going around going, there's aliens, and the reptilians, and we're all like in slavery pens or something.
Okay, the moon landing, did it happen?
Yes, of course it did. Yes, we can see.
You're not a conspiracy theorist, then. Get in.
No, it's no.
Haven't happened.
No, but this is
9/11 happened.
no. Hold
Okay,
on.
the moon. That's one. That's only one. That's
Thinking
fair
the
enough.
politicians tell lies
How
and the
about-
banks just try to rip you off is not being a conspiracy
No,
theorist.
Dex, hold on. This is the point I'm trying to.
That cloud out there is not conspiring to get me wet.
No, Dex, what I'm saying is right. I think this is the problem with the English definition of to conspire, with the likes of Alex Jones and all these fear-mongering people who want to sell you crystals and all that shit. They're the conspiracy theorists that people see on the internet who attract stupid people basically with no clue, like Flatlanders or whatever. Oh, Stonehenge wasn't built. It was the BBC. It's just like, are you shitting me? So in that regard, I'm not that type of conspiracy theorist. I'm not. But I'm a conspiracy theorist in regards to, I like revisionist history. In regards to the victor writes history, and you have to look at the other side of history to understand history.
Sure. Okay.
As a full respect.
Holocaust.
That was what I would call
Did the Holocaust happen?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So, what about French Revolution?
Yes.
Okay. What about Princess Diana?
She's dead.
Yeah, but did she die at the hands of Prince Philip's insistence?
Probably not. But she's dead.
Oh,
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're
was slavery in
close.
the
We're
South
close.
really bad?
No, in fact, she is dead. Probably dead. She just literally is. No, she is. But not by the hand of somebody. I don't
Was
think.
slavery in the South really terrible?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think it was terrible?
No. I think if you understand human nature, it wasn't terrible. It was humans being what humans do best, which is exploit other human beings, which is technically Marxism, or I wouldn't say Karl Marx. It came before Karl Marx. It's the fact that if you imply individuality into somebody, it gives them a sense of we are God, right? And this comes from Luciferianism, which is not a joke. The whole go to the light enlightenment shit. That's actually Luciferianism. It's the opposite side of what they teach you in the Bible,
But
which is
why
interesting when you look at it.
Yeah.
Well, I
have
don't
heard of
fucking
that.
know. I'm not Luciferian, but that's the way they see the Bible. The Bible to them, Satan is not Satan. Satan, or Lucifer in that regard, is the savior because God was spiteful, right? Because God didn't want to give you knowledge, even though he put a tree in this garden of Eden, what the fuck it was. So they think that God is the bad guy and Satan is the good guy, or Lucifer in that regard, the snake. So they worship the snake, which is how you get. Technically, in some regards, if you look at the history of the Illuminati and all that shit, which it means enlightened in Latin, these are pretty scary people.
What's
Because
this have
they
to
think
do
they're
with
biblical,
slavery?
basically. Pardon?
I missed something. We were talking about is slavery in the South was right, or bad?
No, I didn't say it was right. I just said it was
Not right. I meant bad. Sorry.
Was
No,
it terrible?
it wasn't
Terrible.
bad. It's just the way
As
humans
bad,
are.
as
I'm not excusing humans' actions.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's just that's the way human beings
You're
are.
explaining it.
No,
I
I
get it.
heard you. I
Yeah,
heard you
look,
say
But
not.
look, you're
I heard you say.
saying,
Stay. Hang on. I did hear you say it's a relative thing you were talking about, not an absolute.
yeah.
So no worries. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Max, did you have any other ones that you wanted to throw in there?
Oh,
What do you think about?
let's see. Did the were the Native Americans really savages who were just killed because colonists wanted to get along, but they wouldn't have any of it.
Well, actually, the majority of Native Americans didn't die via combat. They died through disease, which was smallpox.
Okay, good. So,
Just-
all right, I'm settled, Simon.
Okay, so I was thinking just about like chemtrails.
Chemtrails. Well, we know we know for the fact that NASA put shit in the air, but it's only to weather stuff. It's not to kill people. But this is the thing. Conspiracy theorists think that the world's out to get them. The majority of conspiracy theories are biblical people. They believe in God and woo-woo shit. They think the world's coming to get them, when that's not the case.
Yeah. Okay.
No, NASA do put shit in the air. They literally do. Thorium. They put it in the air. Why? Because they want to measure the weather. It's a fact. NASA even says, yeah, we put shit in the air.
Measure the weather. You said measure.
Yeah, it's just a way of seeing how like cyclones work and weather structures and stuff, and we know how the world works in the sense of atmospheric temperatures and barometers and all that shit. We know how this stuff works. NASA does this all the time, right?
Ish.
That's why
Ish.
they don't launch rockets when it's fucking there's a hurricane, because they can actually see the radar. It's pretty shitty. So
yeah.
But if you compare that to a conspiracy theorist, the conspiracy theorists will go, "Oh my God, the world, the Illuminati are spraying chemicals because they all want us to die and depopulate the world by a trillion people." No, they don't.
Yeah, I've heard that actually, Star. Yeah.
Yeah, humans aren't that sophisticated.
Okay.
They're far too greedy to They just,
Yeah.
they're not that smart. And this is what.
So I was actually alluding to a conversation we had some time ago, where you said, oh yeah, I used to believe all sorts of crazy shit, and I was just wondering whether you could sort of explain to us how you went from the crazy shit to being the sensible stuff that you now hold.
No, it's still crazy shit, but the crazy shit is sensible.
Oh yeah.
It's just the way I say. I mean,
we had a specific conversation before. We had a specific conversation
I know. Yes, I know. But I can honestly tell you that I haven't changed my position. When I say crazy shit, in terms of what I used to think, in the sense of crazy shit, it's still the same stuff. But how I guess phrased it's changed, right? The way I framed.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever you want to say about how it changed, just explain how that happened.
Well, it just because the likes of Alex Jones, the fear-mongering, I just got so annoyed that people are so dumb and jumped on the bandwagon of understanding that the world isn't black and white, it's grey, right? And I like the grey part of life, because that's what makes it interesting, right? And that's where the conspiracies come from, the grey area. People collude or whatever. I like that, right? Not because it's good for human beings, it's just because it's interesting how history works. Because that's what it boils down to, history. How do we understand history? Like the burning of the Reichstag with Hitler. That was a conspiracy, right? But no one believes that. But it's historically true. We already know that Germany burned down its own parliament and blamed it on the Polish to start World War II. We know this as a fact. But if you was to say that as a conspiracy, people would think it was crazy. We already know that the United States.
Hang on, can I stop you there?
Hold on.
Can I just
United States is going to
I need to stop you there just to.
This is already a fact because the CIA released documents that that is the case.
Yeah, I need to stop you there just to question what you just said. You said it's a fact that the Polish burnt down the Reichstag to start World War II.
Germany, the Germans, the Nazi party, burnt down their own parliament and blamed it on Poland. That's a fact,
right, okay.
dude.
Yeah,
no, that is a fact.
I don't know, but yeah.
No, it's a fact. You can
I'm not disputing it. I'm not disputing it. Don't shout it at me.
I'm just saying, if you say that, right, by definition of the word conspire, then people colluded to make this.
Yeah, I understand the point.
That's why it would be a conspiracy. Now, the word theory afterwards is just a conclusion. A theory is a hypothesis of how it happened, right? Is it true or not, right? So the theory in the other end of the word is the problem. Alex Jones and all these tinfoil hat cunts, right? They get labelled with the word conspiracy theorist, which deludes from the fact that you are questioning the doctrine of a government or any given situation. Now, I like to be a conspiracy theorist, but only when it's historically in context. You know, did we land on the moon? Is that no? It's not a conspiracy, fucking idiot. We can see we can see the lander on the fucking moon. It's not a conspiracy. That's just you being fucking dumb.
Can you give us an example of one that is?
In terms of what then?
Well, in terms of what you would call a conspiracy theory.
I kind of disagree with your definition of conspiracy theorist. So, but you go answer Simon first.
Thank you.
Well, Guy Fawkes, fuck's sake. That's the oldest one. If you want me to point one out.
Right.
I love.
No, I meant current one. What conspiracy theory do you hold to currently, which is in this?
What's the biggest one?
Yeah.
What do you mean? People conspire to, you know?
I just want an example of a current one that is, you know, what you would consider contentious.
The war and Iraq.
Or even not. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great. Okay. Now I get where you're kind of, you know, with a concrete example. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Helena, what was your question?
Oops, sorry.
Helena, what was your question?
Sorry. Stizor, it sounded like you said that a conspiracy theorist is someone who kind of questions the government.
No. I said that there's different types of conspiracy theorists. I like to be a conspiracy theorist in the type of, I like to question evidence historically. I'm not saying there's some tinfoil hat involved. I'm just saying it's nice to question history because there's different types. I learned that in school with secondary and first-hand evidence.
But I wouldn't even say that somebody who likes to question history counts as a conspiracy theorist.
Well,
For me, the key part of the phrase conspiracy theorist is conspiracy. In other words, you have a hypothesis that involves, hold on, you have a theory that involves requiring a number of people to agree to hide something. So that's
to conspire. Yeah.
Fire?
Yeah, conspire. That's the
conspire. Yes.
No, the actual word where conspiracy comes from is to conspire.
Exactly.
I can throw you a surprise birthday party. You don't know how I did it. If you questioned how I threw you a surprise birthday party, it would make you a conspiracy theorist.
Well, if when I tried to surmise how you did
English.
Part of my theory involved you agreed with a bunch of other people to hide the party from me, then I would be a conspiracy theorist.
No, the theory would only come from your questioning how I did it. The theory part. The conspiracy is done because we threw you a surprise. You didn't know, right? The theory is that you don't know how we did it. That's the theory. So the theory is how it happened. So all you're doing is you're proposing a mechanism for how it was possible for them to hide this birthday party from you.
Right, but the only way that I would call my supposition a conspiracy theory is if it involved me supposing a conspiracy.
Yes, but that's called a theory. That's the point. So we call them conspiracy theories. But
right,
the theories themselves are, in Alex Jones's cases, nonsensical because he comes out with all kinds of crazy tinfoil hat mad shit. Where I think myself personally, I'm a true conspiracy theorist. Where I think conspiracies, in the sense of historical context, can be validated in questioning history, right? Now, my theories are only based on actually two things. I'm not trying to make people fearful or anything of that nature. I'm just going on historical facts. Like, as I said, the oldest conspiracy theory is actually Guy Fawkes. And that's a fact. Even it was posted on the BBC, which is kind of interesting if you want to look it up. I'm not joking. It was literally on the BBC. The oldest conspiracy theory is Guy Fawkes. Because the notion is that the guy who blew up Parliament, how did they catch him was the point. Well, they caught him because his friends told the government that he was up to no good. He had, that was technically the start of MI5, as we know today, or the Secret Service of the British intelligence. That's how they knew that he was up to no shit and caught him red-handed, because they already was aware of what he was up to, right? So in that regards, that's a conspiracy theory. The theory is how did it play out. The conspiracy is who conspired to create the
Okay.
IS.
Okay, cool. So we understand.
Okay.
Do we agree or not?
Well, agree on what?
That definition.
To conspire, it's in the dictionary. I don't think people should.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems to me it's quite colloquial. I don't think there is a hard definition.
Well, colloquial is the most common use term.
I mean, because I don't think. Well, yeah, I just don't think, to say that the Iraq War, there was a conspiracy to go to war with Iraq isn't really
I think
a conspiracy.
I think people. People conspired.
Hang on. Yeah, to say that isn't extraordinary because there's been several inquiries and judgmental inquiries by the government into what happened.
Actually, there hasn't. We've been waiting for 10 years, and it's coming up next year. Actually, the actual definitive one is coming up next year, and it took 10 years. We've had slightly inquiries, but the main one that was initiated by the Labour government is actually 10 years in the making, and it's coming up next year. It's called the Colport Inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know.
So the one into
Iraq is still
right halfway through. You just do that every time, die.
So.
Anyway, I don't think it's a particularly, what we would call a conspiracy. You'd be considered a conspiracy theorist to believe that there was that we went to war on false pretenses, as was shown by the very first inquiry. In fact,
well, we didn't go to war on false pretenses. That's the point.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
let me get to the end of the point before you get in there. So I'm just trying to draw a distinction between saying that something's obviously where people got together and planned something. Well, governments get together and plan stuff, so all governments are conspiracy. We're not really helping the definition by making it that wide.
No, but this is the point I'm trying to make.
So we know that we're talking about people that have ideas that are counter to either physics or likely events. Right? I mean, we're not talking about things which are just, I conspired to get a birthday party together.
But this is the point I'm trying to make. The whole birth of the internet, tralala, whatever the fuck you want to call it, has given rise to people who are, I'm going to say this, are sadly not that well educated, and they jump on a bandwagon of conspiracy theorists, and then people like me who like to do revisionist history get called the conspiracy theorist when I try and point out basic English of what a conspiracy theorist is. So I got lumped in the same group.
That's a good point. Yeah. I accept that point, and I brought that up, and I didn't bring you up as necessarily a conspiracy theorist. That's what Hang on a minute, let me finish what I'm saying. That's what you self-proclaimed, and I was merely pointing back to a conversation where you said to me at one point, years ago, I did believe in some strange conspiracy theories of the type we're talking about, which is not landing on the moon or 9/11 or ... right?
But no,
is that not true? Is that not true or not true? I can't remember conspiracy theories you told me about at the time. We had a very interesting discussion about them.
But the thing is, when I say I don't believe, I'm
not talking about now, Sty. I'm talking about like 10 years ago or something.
Well, I'm pretty sure, because I've had 33 years on this fucking planet, I'm pretty sure what I believe, right? So I'm trying to explain my position, right?
I'm not interested in your position now.
Well, when growing up, right? Something
not what I'm asking
that I believe
about.
That you're asking me, right? It's not the fact that I didn't believe, right? It's the fact that the evidence required, it was so low bar, I would say. In the sense that, like, let's say the moon, for instance, right? Now, you got to understand science, right? So, you go to the moon, well, what's the level of radiation? Why didn't the Russians ever go to the moon? It's not that they couldn't afford it, they just never went, because they apparently said it's not possible. And you can look it up historically, 1960 something fucking ever, they said, you can't go to the moon. You can go to high orbit in space or around the Earth, but you can't go to the moon because we haven't got the technology to do so. Next minute, the fucking Americans are on the moon. Well, that's a leap in technology. And then you look at other research. If you go to NASA's webpage and ask NASA researchers, did we have the technology to shield astronauts from the moon? They say, no. So we got to the moon even though we didn't have the protection of radiation. Well, that's kind of interesting. Now, who's right and who's wrong, I don't know. But what I know one thing is, we can look at the moon and we can see a little fucking tiny go-kart moon.
Well,
you know,
I can definitely,
no, we can't.
I can definitely say that I believe in at least one conspiracy theory.
Well, come on then.
It's your mom's.
Oh shit.
Sorry. Okay, that was I was just saying that to completely derail the conversation, but let's go back to it. So
That's
you're
fine.
agnostic.
Derailing is fine. Let me just say one thing quickly to Max there. Yeah, when you're going to deliver a joke like that, it's got to be pretty quick. Got to go straight. I got a conspiracy theory. Your mum. No pause. No pause.
Yeah, but anyway.
All right.
Point being is, I'm going to use an amusing example in that regard. Did we go to the moon? Yes. Why? Because it's right there.
Yeah.
Like, we can see it.
You know, can I just reassess what I was saying?
Yeah, but this was like 15, Sam.
You're not addressing what I was asking you.
Well, I am.
I haven't got to the point. Well, okay, carry on. Maybe you'll get to the point at some point.
Yeah, I am. It's possible for you to change your mind on shit, right? When I was growing up,
definitely.
Like, okay, let's say 9/11, right?
100%. I accept that. I mean, that was implicit in my question.
Yeah, well, I'm going to use another example. 9/11. When I was, I don't know, 18, 19, or whatever the fuck it was. Like, Illuminati, you're like, oh, it's a big deal. And then you understand how the world works, right? I guess when you're that age, everything's against you in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
Just everything. So you think the world's against you, and it's a big thing, but it's not. It's just the way the world works. And you actually learn that by just being more engaged with other human beings. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Now, when I said to you in that conversation, I used to believe in crazy shit. Yes, I did, because I didn't actually believe.
Yeah.
In
the question
the
question I was asking you is, how did you get from there to where you are now? What was the process?
Okay, that's
that was all I asked. We've just had a 20-minute conversation, and that was the question I asked 20 minutes ago.
Well, it was a good conversation.
Listen when I ask you something directly.
Well, the people joined in, so don't be perturbed about it.
All right.
Even though it's 20 minutes ago. So the question is, how did I get from there to here?
That was the question.
It's not that hard. I grew up. I just see life differently than I did then.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, there's no silver bullet.
You're kind of saying what I hear from that then is that you kind of got more knowledge, you discovered more about it. But then
not more knowledge, just more understanding of the knowledge I already had.
Ah, okay, that's a better way of putting it. Yeah, okay. So when I hear other conspiracy theorists about, say, these things like, they always have a lot of facts, which are kind of almost facts, and then all these almost facts are self-supporting. So it seems like they go in depth to the subject. So why is it? It's not, as you're saying, it's not the amount of knowledge; it's the way you understand it. So what process changed you from going, I need to look deeper and deeper to find these semi-facts, into going, hang on, the first facts I'm looking at aren't quite right?
Well, it's going to sound weird, but I didn't look at the facts. I looked at myself. I just understood that, well, growing up as a human being, I was like, well, I'm me. I'm not perfect. I don't think people are. And that's what clicked, I guess, at some stage in my life. It's just like, well, yeah, that's just the way the world works, kind of thing. And that made me go into, people. I used to be into like the Jews run the world. I literally used to think that. Not because I was anti-Jew or anything. It's just because if you look at the heritage of people, it just so happens that the majority of rich Mologs, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, I forgot the fucking actual name. The majority of people in Congress are Jewish. The majority of rich people are Jewish. Does that make them, fucking Jews run the world? No. But, but when I was a kid growing up, right, when I was 15, 16, growing up 17, I used to think there was a conspiracy against me. Just me. Not the world. I couldn't give a fuck about the world, but me. Everything was the world's problem. And this is how I grew up, in a sense, like, changed my perception. It's not
interesting. Yeah.
It's not the fact that it's me, right? It's the fact that it's you who's the problem. you are the arbiter of your own destiny in that regard. And it did take a
And
long
that's what
time for me
changed.
to notice
Have
that.
you ever?
Yeah, that's
Have you ever? That reminds me of a particular anime I just watched. It's called Welcome to the NHK. It's all about this guy who, he's a university dropout. He stays at home. His parents pay his rent. He just goes on the internet and watches TV. And he does drugs and smokes cigarettes. And he thinks everything is out to get him. And that's why he can't get up the courage to actually go into the world and get a job and contribute to society.
Yeah, well, that's actually, if you go to the doctor, that's depression. It's a psychosis. If the world is not against you, you're against yourself, which basically you project on other people. And like, it literally, to be honest with Simon, that's how I changed from being like, the world's against me, to going, well, no, it's just history and humans aren't perfect and the world's a shitty place, and going, there is no such thing as the Illuminati. Okay, there's powerful rich people on the planet, but they're just like you. They're not that smart. You know? Just because they got shitloads of money doesn't mean that they're fucking special. I mean, if they were special and really smart, I'm pretty sure the world would be in a better place than it is now. And it's not. So they're not that sophisticated now.
In Japan, it's actually a common occurrence. They're called hikikomori, and they just do just that. They just stay at home, play video games, watch TV. They don't go out, contribute to society, and their parents usually pay for their apartments and their rent. And it's getting quite common in Japan, funnily enough. Might be onset from depression, but yeah, it's becoming an occurrence.
It's an inward-looking weird
Oh, they
thing.
also masturbate and watch hentai all day.
No, you know the biggest growing trend in Korea right now is actually sitting at home watching other people eat dinner. That's literally the biggest trending thing in Korea. It's literally watching people eat dinner. Because they live such a fucking weird life where the only joy they get out of being with another person is the internet. It's so bizarre. But, you know, that's kind of digressing from fucking conspiracy theory type doctrine. I just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, Aceless, did you want to contribute here? Or Max, you've got a point you made in the side chat. Do you want to make that?
Oh no, I think that's great that the Japanese are extincting themselves.
Korean, not Japanese, Korean.
No, Japanese.
Got slanty
No,
eyes,
Japanese, Dizor.
Oh,
Koreans do it too. Koreans do that food thing you were talking about.
Yeah,
that's really popular there.
The biggest trending thing. And League of Legends. I play League.
I think I want to go into work tomorrow with my Super Mario hat in my suit, and I'll just wear a red shirt and tie.
I want to know how long it takes you to get the sack if you did that.
Well, I work at night, so probably nobody is going to bother me about it, but I won't actually wear the hat at work. I'll just come into work wearing the hat.
No,
I'm not on shift right now.
No,
I wear the hat.
No, you should literally go into work with the hat, and then when they say, like, why have you got a hat, say, why have you got a job? Are you bothered the fact that I can do my job with my hat? If I had a cock in my ear, would it bother you?
I think that would be cause to be fired.
You see, that's what makes you homophobic.
Not wanting a dick in my ear makes me homophobic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you're trying to get fired, what you want to do when you go in with that is jump
Just
up,
don't show up.
hit the light with your head, jump on the desk, kick the computer off it, and go
No,
200 points.
If you want to get the sack, just don't show up, dude.
Wait, I thought a boss was a dick in my ear.
Fortunately, mine is pretty nice, and she's not around when I'm on shift, which is pretty cool too.
So, Simon, in regards to what you was asking me, then how would you define a conspiracy theorist? And what would be your...
Well, I would be very loose with it. You know, because in my life I've heard so many of them. But, you know, some of them, they go from being completely fanciful and obviously stupid to, you know, these ones that I'm talking about where people go really in depth and try and find out as many half facts as possible and
like
add them all together to try and make up as many big facts as possible. and some of the half facts, you know, might be real half facts, but most aren't, of course. And the fact that they keep diving in to reinforce and reinforce shows you, you know, once you've gone past the first level of reinforcement, if you haven't managed to do it successfully, it's not real.
So would you say then you're kind of like me, and you're you're into history, and you're
well, I mean, I think,
you're like different sides of history.
Yeah, if you include politics, then you've got, you know, masses and masses and masses of conspiracy theories, because politics is basically people conspiring to do things.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's my kind of conspiracy theories. I
try and discount that. I really try and discount that as much as possible. All right, and just focus in on the ones which are just, you know, which are
plausible to say the least.
Kennedy or 9/11. You know, these obviously have political angles.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that's what I'm saying.
But they're about more than just politics.
Well, I think that I think that the problem with conspiracy theories today, and I do blame the internet and YouTube, is that we got so many stupid people making so many stupid fucking claims. It makes people like me and you, I guess, historical revisionists, you go, well, that's interesting, right? Like, you know, this and that. And we're trying to come at it like in a rational way, not trying to go, the world's gonna kill us all or some stupid shit. But kind of come at it rationally and go, well, that's interesting, right? Like the Tudor and the Stuarts and shit. You know, it's interesting. We've had that in our own history. I mean, conspiracy theories are ripe through English history when it comes to political shit. So that's interesting. In regards to applying it to 9/11 and shit,
I
like, oh my god. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a revisionist either. Yeah, you know, I don't think I've ever heard a conspiracy theory in my life that I've gone, yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, you know what? I think we should. I think people like us who are kind of revisionists should be called revisionists instead of conspiracy theorists. Maybe that's a better word to use instead of conspiracy theorists. Historical revisionists would be a politer way of saying conspiracy theorists.
I think, again, going back to the colloquial point, I think conspiracy theory has just become more than just the two definitions of the individual words. This is now a kind of a phrase which we now mean something loose and. So, James, did you hang on a second, Sty. James, did you want to say something?
I just said that as soon as you put the weird theory in it, you lose me because it means fuck all.
Yeah, it devalues the term.
And it's completely backed by fact.
Yeah.
Call it a fucking hypothesis or a belief, but don't use the word theory because they'll turn me off every time. I'll never believe it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It devalues the entire notion of the fact that humans are capable of conspiring. You know, the word conspiracy is harmless in and of itself, but if you put 30 at the end, it's like, oh my god, yeah, you're crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of, when I say it, when you use that phrase, I mean specifically something which is, you know, almost intrinsically batshit.
That's because
I mean it in a derogative way, you know, every single time. I never mean it these days in some kind of nice. Oh yeah, okay, no, that's a good theory. You know what I mean? So I don't think it is a conspiracy theory to say that the British government manufactured evidence to allow the Iraq war to go ahead without the UN. To me, that's a matter of fact. Okay, I've seen the documents.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. It's the same with the IRA. Most of the IRA terrorism that went on in Northern Ireland were actually done by the British government. How do we know that? Okay. Because they fucking told us they did it. It's a fact. It's that.
Sure.
People didn't know the evidence were called conspiracy.
Don't bring new stuff in. Don't bring new stuff in.
I'm just saying. I'm saying. Look, if you're gonna use conspiracy theory in the terms of a past tense, right? Now think about this. Edward Snowden, right? If you look at Edward Snowden and you said the government is spying on you, right, in whatever way, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, and then Edward Snowden comes out and goes, yeah, well, actually, I used to work for the CIA or NSA, and we were fucking spying on you. And then all of a sudden, people are like, oh, well, it's a shock. Well, it hasn't been a shock for most people who actually accepted the fact that we live in fucking Huxley's fucking universe or Oswald, take your pick. So yes, it's not a shock. But what is a shock to people is the fact that, well, for me, that other people aren't capable of seeing the fact that other human beings will fuck you over. I'm sorry, but we used to chop people's heads off. I mean, don't you understand that? We look at ISIS on the TV, oh my God, they chop people's heads off. That's how democracy was born. We chopped off kings and queens' heads in order to create America. Like, literally, that is the history of Britain and France and most European countries. We chopped off people's heads, burned them on stakes, and then you want to complain about ISIS?
Okay.
Seems a bit fucking hypocritical.
Yeah, but to be fair, it was just one king.
To be fair, time doesn't change.
And to be fair, he was asking for it.
Well, so, I'm just saying, the media portrays one thing. And
I'm making light of it in order to try and get back to the topic.
Yeah, well, making light of it's one thing, but saying it's
off my head on it.
The fact is, it's true.
Yes, we're not disputing that. So, I think, as I say, when I'm using it as a general phrase to mean things like "we never landed on the moon," which is, in other words, the same as saying things which are clearly batshit crazy.
Yeah, that is batshit crazy. I totally agree, and this is why I blame Alex Jones and these other people who sell crystals and all this weird shit. I hate them because they make a mockery of people who are trying to understand history for what it's worth, politically.
So, in other words, what I'm now hearing is that self-realization actually comes about through perspective on these hard facts.
Well, I think
that's what you're really saying. So you step back and went, oh look, actually, if I believe all of these conspiracy theories, I'm going to be here till kingdom come.
No,
so somewhere down the line, some of them are going to be wrong.
I wish I wish it was that easy, Sam. I don't think it is. I think it comes with time, in the sense of growing up. Because all the shit that I said I believed in, that was crazy. I was like 15 years old, getting stoned. I didn't know what day it was. What day did next. And I was like, oh my God, the world's against me. That's the point. The world's against me. It was all about me at that point. It wasn't like me being involved in a social structure with other human beings and, enjoying communication and other people's ideas or their thoughts even on the way the world works. It was just me. And I was just in this little tiny bubble. I was like, ooh, I'm scared, because that's the way you feel when you're in that, well, I wouldn't say pubescent, because obviously I've hairs on my balls, but in the sense of being in a bubble, you can't engage the world in a bubble.
Did you just say you pierced your balls?
No, I'm saying I have hairy balls.
Hairy balls. Okay. Yeah. Beg your pardon.
You can't ignore the fact that you've got hairy balls. And you need to engage in the world. And most of these people that I come across who are conspiracy theorists happen to be very young people or old people who are scared of being, I guess, a part of the world again. And they're scared of humanity, which, I can understand that point where humanity is a shitty thing. Because we can feed everybody on the planet, but we choose not to. That is kind of a scary thing. It seems like there's an agenda in that regard. You can imply it. Yeah. I'm not saying there is, but you can imply there's an agenda.
Come on now, yeah. Okay, so
you get the point. I'm not saying.
Hang on, stay. I don't think anyone could disagree because the question is so large that there are multitude of factors involved in why that doesn't go on right now. Mainly, no, we won't even go mainly because you can't go mainly on a subject like that. So let's not open a new rabbit hole too quickly. Art or Dex? I notice your mic's open, Dex.
I don't even know what this conversation's about.
Yeah, I think we're ready for a new topic. If you had one.
Yeah. As long as it's not a conspiracy.
You answered the question.
It was about the definition of a conspiracy theorist, right?
No, eventually you answered the question, Sty, which is, great. I thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah. It's just hard because there's a lot of convolution on YouTube right now about conspiracy theorists, and I still maintain that I am one. Now, if you want to put me in the label of like Alex Jones,
yeah, it's not. It's the phrase is so general.
yeah,
Okay, that I wouldn't
it's
put
so
you
much
in that category. That I wouldn't put you in that category. Because I mean it for people that are batshit crazy, that don't even want to look at the evidence and understand even the first level of evidence is wrong, let alone the second, third, and fourth, which they fucking dived into to try and confuse everybody.
Well, that's why I like the whole history part of it, because I like the history part because it's interesting. I
completely agree with that, and you're right about when you say I am in that camp as well. Dex,
I think an easy way to define it would be to say that conspiracy theorist in the modern term is somebody who has some sort of alternative viewpoint that is unfalsifiable due to further conspiracies. So it basically, it's like turtles all the way down. Yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it.
We didn't go to the moon equals aliens. It's like what?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right. So equals aliens. Okay, well, how do you know there's aliens? Well, the aliens control everything. Of course you wouldn't know there's aliens.
So it's bizarre.
So there is always some wall that you hit where you just there's nothing more to talk about because NASA is controlling the world. And everybody's in on it, and Illuminati and Satan, and
that's it. You can't actually have a logical historical conversation about how the world works actually without someone going, well, we didn't land on the moon. It's like, what? Hold on.
My conversations have been how about we do some, like with flat earthers, for example. Well, how about we do some basic geometry? And their answer was, who taught you geometry?
Lies. Aliens.
Right? You were programmed in school.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
So at that point, what do?
You give up and just... I mean, for me, I get disheartened, right? Because I love people who question history.
I guess you could throw a baseball at them.
Yeah. In Fallout 4, which I'm fully enjoying. Good job, but I just want to give a big
thumbs you caught it. Well done.
Studios for Fallout 4. Though I will say this, please give us multiplayer. Put it up. Just say. I'm playing Fallout 4 a lot. Everybody on my Steam is playing Fallout 4 right now. Like everybody. I love Fallout 4. It's a really good game.
Oh my goodness! Don't get me started on that. I already waste enough of my time on G+. If I get my hands on Fallout 4, that'll be it.
Dude, I've literally spent a week off college playing Fallout 4. My teacher's gonna be like, "What's happened?" I said to him, "I've got problems at home." He knows what that means. Fuck college, I'm playing Fallout 4. Fuck you. I make computer games, by the way. So.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome, though.
I'm just fucking loving the experience. Yeah. It's just a weird game, but it's really cool as well. I just like it. But I hope to give us some updates for some certain things I'm not too keen on, which is like...
Hey, Evolution.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't want to make it a fucking gaming show. I quite like the whole conspiracy/logic thing that I'm going through.
Yeah.
No, logic. That's it. That logic. That's a huge conspiracy right there.
Yeah, it is. It's like the whole world's flattening. I blame the likes of Alex Jones though. I think people like me, I guess Simon, myself, I think other people like to question history because we understand what history is. We understand secondary evidence, first-hand evidence, and that's always interesting.
I do it because I'm kind of like to be a historian, not because I'm anything to do with conspiracies.
Yeah, exactly right, but we get lumped in that category when we question history, not because we question it because we think there's some like hidden agenda, it's just interesting, right? But we get called conspiracy theorists, like 9/11, right? If you said to me, do you believe in the official story of 9/11, I would say no, right? That would technically make me some tinfoil hattery cunt until you listen to what I say. I don't believe that 9/11 was a conspiracy the way Alex Jones or whatever would say. But I think that certain people in the government knew very well what was going to happen next, and they made a shitload of fucking money from it, which most human beings would do in their position. That is a normal thing to do. Now, is it true? Can I prove it? Definitely no, but I can hypothesize on the rationality for how that shit happened. I mean, what's more scary to me is the fact that if the official 9/11 thing happened, then why do we need nuclear weapons? You can bring United States to a standstill just by a bunch of fucking idiots with box cutters. That's even more fucking scary than nuclear weapons. That's just my perception.
Okay.
Let's not do 9/11.
Just
No,
yeah,
not.
let's definitely
Example.
not get to 9/11, and definitely not get to 9/11 and then nuclear weapons.
No, but you can laugh. But the United States spends close to $1 trillion per year on its fucking defense system.
It's not that. It's not that, Sty.
Okay,
it's not that, Sty. It's just that the way you said it in your head had, because you were linking several ideas together, you hadn't expressed them to us. So when you said it, all we heard was the one idea.
In the background. And then, shut up, whoever that is.
And then whatever. So it just came across. It came across as a funny. It came across as a funny turn of phrase, anyway. Yeah, let's find out.
Evolution. I'm just gonna mute you because I know it's you. Don't be offended. There we go. It's just your microphone was open to. No, my point was just 9/11 in general. I wasn't trying to be specific. I'm just saying how conspiracy theories use that shit.
Let's not get down to 9/11.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm the only one out of the entire group in here that's had an apology from DPR Jones because he made a video debunking 9/11, and I was like, that's the stupid debunking video ever. And he literally gave me an apology, which I fully I enjoyed. I did enjoy DPR Jones going, yes, I'm sorry.
It's a minefield, which is why I'm saying let's avoid it. But
I'm just saying I got an apology, and yeah.
Yeah, it's all good, and I respect DPR, so cool, man. And I wouldn't, when you have a position style.
The guy's smart. I'm not saying,
I agree with it. When you have a position and I agree with it, I hope you recognise that I do agree with it and recognise that,
Well, okay, I will tell you the position involved is that he
not
claimed.
Really, because that will be getting into.
I'm going to say it anyway. Just shut up and let me finish. The point is, he made a video debunking, which is the whole point of conspiracy theories. His literal video was debunking 9/11 retards. Right? This is the video I commented on. I can show you if you want. He made a video debunking 9/11. In particular, thermite. Okay, this was funny. Now, I don't give a fuck whether these buildings fell down or not. All I was bothered about is his reference to debunking somebody. So he said, I debunked these people using thermite with his Xbox, right? So I said to him, well, you do know the difference between military-grade thermite and thermite, right? One of them burns through steel, and one of them doesn't. The one that you just used is sparkler's dust, which is commonly used in sparklers. The other one was actually made by the military, which is called nanothermite. The one you used to debunk the video, or the people who you're debunking, all said nanothermite. Not one of the people in this video said thermite. They all said nanothermite. And he used thermite, sparkler dust, to say, well, sparkler dust can't burn through my Xbox, therefore I've debunked you. That is not an argument of any logical rationality. And when I pointed this out, he actually went, yeah, that's actually true. So, just pointing out the fucking obvious. Now, whether 9/11 happened or not in the way these tinfoil hatteries think it did is not the same thing as you trying to be a smart ass, because I'm probably smarter than you when it comes to you being a dick. If everybody in your video says nanothermite and you've got no way of using military grade thermite, which is called nanothermite, which burns at like 100 degrees hotter than Thermite or your Sparkler in that regard, November the 5th, then I'm pretty sure you're full of shit. So, apologise. And he did. This is the point.
So is that instrument that Jimmy Page used?
Pardon?
Thermite. Is that the instrument that Jimmy Page used on...
I don't know, whether you're being sarcastic
Dazed and confused.
I'm just trying to work out which one you want.
Yeah. Okay, but we were avoiding 9/11?
No, we're not, because I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
I
didn't hear a question.
Oh. Well, I was asking a question, you
about
just
a
seem to
minute
want to
ago.
avoid it because you seem fit to. But because I'm in the room,
No, I just asked the room, and we kind of said, do we want to go down the 9/11?
Well, I'm not part of the room, so
a couple
I'm
of people said no.
And no one answered you, so.
A couple of people said no, so...
Well, point them out then, because I can't see anybody, even the sidebar. Unless you're self-glamorizing again.
I want to listen to this compelling argument from Evolution False. I want to hear your story. No, speak. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, you need to unmute. It's just your mic's open. I didn't mute because I don't like you. Go on.
I'm using a headset, so...
Oh yeah, it's fine, and we can hear you. It's just your mic was open when we was talking, got like a bit of feedback, but yeah, the floor is yours. If you want to change the topic, be our guest.
Well, I'm not asking to change the topic. Somebody
no,
asked
you
me
can.
a question.
No, you can. That's
okay.
That's fine.
Well, let's take several issues at a time. Number one, the so-called fossil record exemplifies stasis and transition.
Hold on, stop there.
Wait. Hold on. Can we just say, is this an evolution topic then, right now? Can we just...
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Alright, well that's fine. Evolution.
Okay, let's mute up, give Evolution a couple of minutes, and...
Yeah, I was just going to say, Evolution...
Play out his position as much as he wants, and
no,
then,
Evolution.
We can respond at the end, and then see how we go. Yeah?
Evolution, just make 1 point, right? And then we can respond, and then... I know you got several, and your point is evolution is false, I guess. Well, not true.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's cool. All right. So just make 1 point, and then the room can respond, and then we can move on to more points. So make your case for just 1 point. Why do you think evolution is? There we go. Just 1 point, though. Don't go into like the whole.
1 point. Well, randomization, even given an enormous amount of time, cannot produce specified complexity. DNA is an example of what we would call specified complexity, even including the idea of what people would call natural selection or what survives, would not account for the arrival and the increase of what we would call specified complexity, which is what is the DNA code. There is no observational support that the mutations that we do see, and even in rare instances might confer a slight advantage to survival, that those random mutations would accumulate to increase genetic information, which would be specified complexity.
Yeah, that's proposed by William Dembski, a creationist. Yeah, okay. So that's.
I didn't refer to any particular person.
I'm telling you who proposed the concept you're asking about.
There's a number of people that have proposed this idea.
No, Dembski wrote the paper and it was rejected. So
I'm fully aware that Dembski does not subscribe to the universal common ancestry. I didn't quote Dembski. I haven't read any Dembski's material.
I'll explain it to you again. Specified complexity is a concept proposed by William Dembski and used by him.
No, that's a term that he uses, and as well as other people use.
Hold on, Evolution. Let James.
Okay. Used by him and others to promote intelligent design. According to Dembski, the concept can formalize a property that singles out patterns that are specific.
Yeah, well, that's right. So what if Dembski uses the term?
Irreducible complexity and changed it to specified complexity. That's been debunked. Next point.
No, that's a claim without support.
Has he submitted it anywhere for peer review?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, are you aware of the fact that there are massive? Are we going to have a conversation, or are you going to be rude?
I'm trying to get a yes/no answer from you.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to answer you. First of all. Okay, I'll wait till you're done interrupting.
I'm asking you a yes/no question. Has it been submitted for peer review? Yes, no. Anything else is.
There have been some intelligent design advocates who have had certain articles published, but it is very difficult to get anything that is critical of the Neo-Darwinian synthesis published in peer-reviewed journals due to the overwhelming bias toward the Neo-Darwinian synthesis. But that's besides the point. Peer review is not. Well, listen,
guys.
Okay, if you're going to be obnoxious and rude, I won't respond to you. Okay, you ask me a question, I'm responding.
I don't think it's important who wrote what. Let the idea stand on its own. And that's
the genetic fallacy. Anyway.
Hold on, Evo. Let's let Ace go on, Ace.
Yeah. So why should we reject the?
Okay, let's go to the concept
of natural
selection. One moment. Evolution, please don't interrupt evolution. Okay. Let someone finish the sentence before you start talking.
I was interrupted multiple times.
No, excuse me. Aces is was
just
you know,
if there's not going to be order, if there's not going to have order, I'll just leave.
No, wait, no, Evo. Look,
Aces was addressing the room, okay, and he hadn't finished before you started talking. Let him finish. Aces,
you're very welcome. You're very welcome to, disagree with him, but just you got to let him finish.
Please, would you let Ace speak and let him finish and address the room?
Or be talking over me. Shut up.
Okay. First, I want to know why we should reject the concept of natural selection.
Well, it all depends on what you mean by natural selection. If natural selection can mean something as simply what survives, or people can think that natural selection is some type of creative force, which is the mechanism that produces a universal common ancestry. There is no observational support that natural selection can produce or did produce a universal common ancestry. There are different ways of understanding what natural selection means. Now, in natural selection, under the most common way of understanding it, is you have randomization through reproduction, and those that survive because they're more fit to survive, right? That doesn't support a universal common ancestry. That begs the question, or it assumes that randomization through mutations will produce a net increase of genetic information.
What do you mean by randomization?
Random mutations.
No, randomization. What do you mean by that term?
Random mutations.
And what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
Mutations are undirected. They're random.
Those are not the same term.
Okay. Wait. Hold on. Hold on.
Mutation. It doesn't mean anything. What does it mean?
James, you're gonna get into a fucking never-ending.
Mutations.
No, hold on, Evan. No, because Balthazar. I want Balthazar to speak.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's been asking. So, James, I know you got a question to ask on that point, but I do want Balthazar to speak because he's been very patient. So, Balthazar, if you want to hit the...
I just wanted to first know, do you believe in a young Earth?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. The problem, I am a Christian. I don't believe in a young Earth. The problem you will face with your ID, because there are good theories that goes along what parts of what you are saying about randomness and some other mechanism besides mere natural selection. But when you go with or common ancestry, but when you go with an old Earth, young Earth, all this evidence are.
I didn't discuss any of that.
No, but that is so funny because there are.
Well, did you hear me discuss that?
You talked. Didn't you talk about common ancestry also?
I mentioned universal common ancestry. I said nothing about the age of the Earth.
Okay, no, but it's a little bit. You will have much better argument if you go by old Earth, like Cambrian explosion.
My position about the efficacy of random mutations to produce a net increase of specified complexity is really not relevant to an older young Earth. The same problem would affect it with a young and an old Earth.
But
Earth is not relevant, what I just said.
Guys, I really don't mean to interrupt, but I can hear someone's fucking TV. Like, I don't know whose TV it is with the young kids in the background, but can you shut that shit up? I don't know if it's you, Evolution. I don't know who it is. It's you or Dex, because everybody else is on mute. So I'm guessing it's you or Dex at this present moment.
I only have porn on in the background, so.
Yeah, well, can you just...
If you're not hearing porn, then...
Yeah, well, if you're not speaking, can you just mute yourself or tell your kids to shut the fuck up? One of the two. Or turn your television off, because I can hear both. Is that you?
Are you talking to me?
I think it's you, Evolution. Okay, no, it's not. It's Dex.
It's Dex.
It's Dex and Spawn of Kids. I'm sorry to interrupt. No, I'm sorry. I just have to moderate because we got people watching, and I want them to hear it. I don't want them to hear kids screaming in the background randomly. The only people I want to hear is Balthazar and Evolution because they were having a good conversation. So if you guys want to continue, everybody else should be on mute. I don't want to hear anybody else or their crazy fucking background noise, please. So
okay, I can still hear the TV and Dex is muted.
Yeah, I don't know who the fuck it is. It's not Art. I muted Art, and it's not him. The only person I'm thinking is Evolution. Or
do you guys want to mute yourselves one at a time?
Can everybody just mute?
Well, just do it.
Who is that with that noise?
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's Evolution. It's Evolution. Evolution, can you please mute your background noise or something? Because it's really distracting. We're trying to have a conversation. I don't need to.
James. Thank you.
Okay, can I ask? Are we gonna let? Can I ask, or are we still gonna let Balthazar talk?
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's Balthazar versus Evolution right now. I just interrupted. It's just that noise.
Yeah, well, while we've got the conditions, because James's mic is a bit dodged, do you want to just say a couple of things, James?
My mic is what? There's no noise in my house.
No, he said elaborate on your position.
Your mic is very good right now. If you wanted to say a couple of things, now would be a good time.
I'd like Evolution False to tell me the different types of mutations that there are. And random, I know for a fact random is not one type of mutation. So what are the types of mutation that you're saying don't work?
Mutations by definition are random. Now, each individual mutation may be caused by a different deterministic process, but the sequential arrangement of mutations, the arrangement that comes about, is random. And random would be defined as two intersecting, independent, deterministic causes.
Where are you getting that definition from?
That's my definition. That's my definition of random. Do you have a problem with it?
Oh yeah, exactly. So you just made it.
Science.
Are you under the impression that there is a mechanism that produces the specific arrangement of base pairs in the DNA code?
I'm asking you where you get your definition of mutation from. And if you've just made it up,
mutations are widely recognized to be the result of random processes.
No, University of Berkeley disagrees with you completely. So, you want to try again?
Well, are you talking about point mutations? Are you talking about frame shifts?
In general. Let me find out.
I mean, any given mutation would be caused by a deterministic event.
No, there's no deterministic. There's no deterministic mechanism in the mutation. It's a gene.
So in other words, there is nothing that causes an individual point mutation.
No, there isn't.
Oh, so it happens for no reason at all?
No, those aren't the same. Those aren't the same question.
If there is a mutation in genetic reproduction, if there is a single point mutation of a nucleotide, are you saying that addition or deletion of a mutation in the DNA code happens for no reason?
You can't put reason to any of this. The reason implies somebody controlling.
I asked you a question.
I'm answering your question. You're using a term that doesn't apply. So your question is not.
What do you mean? I'm having trouble understanding your generalizations here.
There's no determinism.
I don't have the foggiest idea of what you're talking about. You're not making yourself clear.
You're not understanding what mutations are.
Okay, there's no need for you to insult me.
I'm not trying to insult you.
It's insulting what you just said.
You're not defining mutation.
Okay, the bottom line is a mutation is an addition or a deletion.
It's not.
In the genetic code, where you have an addition of a nucleotide. Do you know what a nucleotide is?
Yes, I know what a nucleotide is.
Oh, okay. So a mutation is where you have the DNA code is being replicated, and there is an addition or a deletion in that genetic code that did not pre-exist.
Okay.
And there could be any number of environmental factors that cause that error.
Can I ask a question?
It doesn't imply adding or subtracting anything. It implies a change. That's all that mutation is a change in allele frequencies over time.
No, can I ask a question?
No, that is not the definition of mutation. That is the definition of evolution.
Can I just ask a question?
The change of allele frequencies is the base definition of evolution.
We're not getting anywhere at this point. Can I ask a question? You guys
an allele is a gene, not a nucleotide.
Okay, so can I ask evolution a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Why do you use scientific method to prove that evolution doesn't occur?
I'm having trouble. Could you repeat? Hearing you. Could you repeat the question?
Okay, I'll say it very clearly.
There's a lot of echo from your mic.
It's actually yours. Oh, okay. We can hear your kids in the background. So if you mute yourself,
I have no children in the background. There's no children here.
Well, whatever. You should stop watching kids shows then, I guess. But whatever. The point.
I don't know. What are you talking about? There's no kids here.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't fucking matter. How do you prove that evolution is wrong without using the scientific method? How do you do that?
Well, you don't actually prove anything in science. All conclusions in science are provisional and are subject to change, given any new observations. When we come to certain conclusions, there are three basic methods in science. One would be induction, deduction, and abduction. Abduction would be an inference to the best explanation. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you don't with those three methodologies, you don't actually prove anything in science.
Let me finish. Hold on, I'm getting there. So, can you tell me the Latin word for science, please?
Scientia or scientia. It means knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
It means knowledge.
Yes. Okay. So you should understand that science is not something that is trying to prove the existence of the universe, right?
Well, you just asked me to prove something. You said, how do we prove something? And I said, we don't prove anything.
What I'm trying to understand is one basic concept is, well, in fact, it brings me to this point. Do you believe in God?
Do I believe in God? Yes, I do.
And there is all the principles I need to know for every single question you're going to ask and every single reason for why you disregard evolution.
Okay. Did you ask me how? Well,
do you know why I know?
Hold on. Do you want me to respond, or you just want to lecture me?
No. Well, I'm trying to point out.
Are you aware of the fact that there are people who believe in God, who believe in evolution?
Can I just finish?
There are lots of them.
It just
what you said is a non sequitur.
No, it's not. The fact is, it's a psychological proven point.
No, believing in God does not automatically rule out the theory of evolution.
No, believing in God is a belief. there's no factual evidence.
Okay, well, we're changing the subject now from evolution.
No, we're not. We're not changing the subject. What we're trying to do is understand your principle.
Okay, whether I believe in God or not is not directly relevant to what I'm saying about biology.
I'm sorry. It's not. It's actually very, very poignant, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to defend the position of God, right? And evolution goes against your very principles of the Adam and Eve principle.
No, not necessarily. That does not.
What do you mean, not necessarily?
No, that's a non sequitur, and I'll explain
no,
why.
It's not a non sequitur.
There are many people. Okay, are you going to let me respond, or are you just going to lecture?
No, please respond.
Good. Well, there are many people who are theistic evolutionists. For example, Francis Collins, the head of the Human Genome Project. Are you familiar with the Human Genome Project?
Yeah, but his religion.
Okay. Francis Collins was the head of the entire Human Genome Project. He's a strong believer in the theory of evolution, and he believes in the existence of God. There are many people who believe in God and who believe in the theory of evolution. So believing in God, it does not necessarily follow that evolution is necessarily false.
Why do you disagree with the guy who helped map the human genome? Are you smarter than him or know more than he does?
Well, Francis Collins is not infallible. He himself made the statement that 80%. Are you going to let me respond, or are you going to interrupt me?
You know what? Wait, hold on, James, hold on, Mike. Let me respond, because he's the only person in here that I can honestly disagree with.
I don't mind being interrogated. Okay,
I just don't want to leave evolution. That's all. I don't want to feel like we're picking on you or any of that.
Okay. No. May I respond briefly, please?
Yeah. Well, yes, but I'm just trying to set the tone.
Oh my God! You know what? If you're not going to let me speak at all, I'm
trying to.
Shut up.
Okay. Okay. Why don't you just let me respond for 30 seconds? I do not mind being questioned. I don't even mind hostile questions or being interrogated. But what I do mind is I'm interrupted within less than 60 seconds of me responding to a question or objection. Now, the guy with the goatee with the blue background, it throws out questions, and I attempt to respond, and then I get more objections.
Okay, let's do this as a room, right? Everybody gives each other at least 30 seconds without interruption. Is that fair? Is that a new rule we're going to have in the room?
Okay, I want to respond to James.
Yeah, I don't.
I want to respond to James. He said, do I know more than Francis Collins? I didn't claim that I knew more than Francis Collins, but Francis Collins, the head of the Human Genome, is a fallible human being. I'll give you a prime example. Because of his evolutionary assumptions within the Human Genome Project, in his book, The Language of God, he wrote and he conveyed the idea that 80% of the human genome is what we would call junk DNA. Because it is believed that less than 20% of the human genome codes for proteins and the rest of the genome does not code for proteins, that it is an evolutionary accumulation, what they would call in naval terms flotsam and jetsam, debris on the sea. Francis Collins has had to change his tune because several years ago, the ENCODE project, checking out the 80% of the human genome that does not code for proteins, they discovered that it contains highly regulatory functions in terms of embryological and genetic growth. And so Francis Collins, who was appointed the head of the Genome Project, was entirely wrong in his assessment of 80% of the human genome in spite of his expertise dealing with the DNA code. So if you want to think, okay, so Francis Collins, as smart as he is and as knowledgeable that he is about the DNA code, his assessment of 80% of the human genome being junk has been demonstrated to be false. Okay?
Okay. Hold on.
That's the next question. He still didn't answer the question that I asked him, but that's okay.
Okay, just hold on.
Let me ask the question again, and see if you can understand what I'm saying.
Well, can I just jump in?
I have a dog barking. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I thought that was a cat. Oh well.
No, I'll be back in 2 minutes. I have to take my dog out. I'll be right back.
Alright. Okay, James, come the fuck down. It's me. Okay. What I'm trying to understand here, right, is that if he's saying evolutionists and God people in that regards can coexist, then why doesn't he appeal to that. Like the guy who made the MRI machine was a young Earth creationist, right? The guy was a nutcase when it came to theology, but he's a fucking kick-ass scientist. Now, I can understand that point, but why does this guy discard science in regards, like, I'm a proponent of science and God in the same realm. I'm kind of a dualicist in that regards. Now, I don't like God because I think it's a shitty idea. That's my opinion. I just think it's a shitty idea. But in terms of
back, I want to push him on a couple of points that you ignored.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna talk shit until he comes back, and then I want you to go full on kind of thing.
If you want to know why he believes that, then you need to ask him and let him talk.
Jesus Christ, are you a fucking elf?
What?
Are you an elf? You got like the weirdest fucking like blue eyes ever. I think you're an elf. You
one of the nicest people on G+.
Helena Elf, the fucking elf. You're an elf, that's what you are.
Hold on a second, let me fix that.
No, seriously, she's a fucking elf. That's awesome. Don't hide away. Come back. No, I swear, Eleanor, if you come back, I'll go on camera for like once in a lifetime.
You will? Oh, all right, go.
I'll probably just hold up my bed and lick a chair.
You go first.
I swear to God, you got awesome eyeballs. That's
Thank
awesome. Just you look like a fucking elf. It's like a very nice.
You have to change from a cat to an elf, Helena.
No, I've never called her a fucking cat.
No.
No, she's an elf. That's awesome.
I think. Anyway,
no, I'm just thinking of sex right now, Helena. You dirty bitch.
Balthazar wants to ask me a question.
Yes. So you were talking about mutation. I mean, I want to defend evolution a little bit because when I also was in school, so the popular opinion at that time we learned that mutation was some kind of some environmental forces that randomly changed the DNA coding.
What does the term random mean? Because it has no application in genetics.
Yes. So, and that's what I want to ask you. So, how do you, are you a naturalist or a physicalist or materialist?
I don't know enough about any of those terms to give you an answer. Philosophy is not my strength.
Okay, but what do causes the changes in DNA besides sexual selection in the DNA? Are they physically?
There's a few things like frame shifting is one. Another one is environmental factors. I mean, it's not something that's directed and it's not random. They just happen.
Frame shifting is not a cause. It's an effect.
Just happen is the same as random. Okay, that is clear.
Okay.
So
James, frame shifting is not a cause. It's an effect.
Yeah, but wait a second.
Can you respond to that, James?
I'm working on it. Give me a second here.
So how does how do the and I will put up the best one argument for you, evolution, but
okay.
I
would just like to comment on what James just said. He just identified frame shifting as a cause. Frame shifting may result in further effects, but frame shifting itself is the result of a mutation.
There are your mutations.
Yeah.
How does?
Okay. So
he's saying that mutations themselves are not random. Well, are they directed sequentially?
No, they're not directed at all.
Good. So each individual mutation happens for a reason.
Something is directing this. It's not. Nothing is directing genetics.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a very clear and simple question. When you have a point mutation of either a single nucleotide addition or a deletion, is there a reason why there is a single nucleotide addition?
Point mutation.
You know what a point mutation is?
I'm working on it. Okay, point mutation.
So you don't know. And you're lecturing me on specified.
I'm lecturing you on terms that you're using that have nothing to do with.
Oh, okay. You're lecturing me on specified complexity, and you don't know what a point mutation is.
Complexity. I googled that because I knew it didn't exist, and I figured it was a creation.
Okay, so basically, you don't know what a. Okay, do you know what a codon is?
Yes.
What is a codon?
Codon is something that ends up at the end of a strand of DNA.
No.
It's a stop codon.
No, you're wrong. No, it's not.
Google stop codon.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. A codon is not something that is at the end of a string of DNA. You simply don't know what you're talking about. A codon is a triplet of nucleotides that codes for an amino acid in a polymer that results in a protein.
Mm-hmm. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to biology. You don't even know the basics.
What I'm talking to you about is your definition and where you get it from, and you still haven't answered that question.
Okay, what I am saying is either true or it's false.
What I'm asking.
May I finish? May I respond, please? Okay. What you're doing is what is called the genetic fallacy. That the content of what somebody says or is written is not to be trusted because of where it originated from, rather than the content itself. That's the genetic fallacy that you're giving right now.
Well, I'm not sure, but you still haven't answered my question. Where do you get your definition of evolution from? Or mutation? Where do you get
evolution? Well, there are different definitions of evolution that people use. For example, on the internet, people equivocate all the time to mean evolution from a mere biological change in reproduction versus universal common ancestry, which would be the neo-Darwinian synthesis. So when people use the word evolution, they mean different things. In fact, there are times when people are discussing and debating this issue in conversations like this, where they will use the word evolution in multiple senses.
Like what?
Let's say mere biological change, where let's say you have a microorganism that reproduces, and there is one nucleotide change when it reproduces itself. That would be a biovariation or a change. That's the basic meaning of the word evolution, meaning to change. Other people use the word. The other people use the word, as they frequently do, to be interchangeably with the concept of the neo-Darwinian synthesis, or what is otherwise known as universal common ancestry. Right?
Well,
Steve, can I make a point?
You still haven't answered my question. Okay?
I certainly did. Why don't you try again?
Wait.
I'm asking you where you get your definition from.
There is no one set in stone definition of evolution.
So do you agree with the Berkeley University definition of evolution?
No, hold on, guys. We're going to go back and forth.
The Berkeley definition is one among several definitions for the word evolution.
No. Okay, guys. Look, I love this discussion.
A common definition of evolution.
There's someone else who wants to ask a question.
Frequencies over time.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But there's someone else in the room who wants to ask a question, so I want them to be able to.
Okay, sure.
So please, and then you guys.
I would love for James to continue to question me because it's.
Well, yeah, so would I. But unfortunately, there's other people in the room, and we have to accommodate them and their opinions. So if the guy who just said I want to ask a question, now you can. So be my guest.
Okay, so James, so what is causing the mutations in the DNA besides sexual selection?
Hang on a second. Just give me. I'm typing a note.
No,
sorry?
I just want. No, hold on. Balthazar.
Ask the question again.
So, what is causing the mutation in the DNA?
You're coming with the assumption that there's a cause. There is no cause to mutation.
Hold on, James.
Okay.
So you have just rejected the underpinnings of science.
No, I haven't. What I'm saying is,
I have made an illustration so I can show you how this actually works. I mean, you don't know what the codon is.
There is no reason. There is no reason why there is a molecular change. It happens for no reason at all. That's what James is advocating here.
No, but okay. So if there are no direction or no, so is it then just chemistry or just physical necessity, or what is?
How can it be
what is
more
changing?
something physical?
Sorry.
James, are you very let me give you an example. Let's
I'm
take
asking somebody else a question, Evolution. Please.
Well, of course you don't want to ask me any more questions. I understand.
You've been complaining about me cutting you off. Now, wait your turn. Balthazar, I asked him a question. Let him talk.
What was the question?
I asked you how can there be any more than a physical reaction to any of this?
Okay, I can show you. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Oh wait, I have to go there myself on the. So here you can see the physical, the chemistry of the DNA. Okay, so here. Wait a minute. So here you have a physical bond. This is chemistry. So the reason why sugar and phosphate bind together here is of physical necessity. It's just chemistry. The same you have here and there and not there.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, and the same you have here. Okay, but the sequence of the base pairs here, they are not there because of any physical necessities. Okay,
what does
it's
that
like.
Mean? What does that mean?
Because the sequence going down here.
Balthazar, what you should clarify is the arrangement of the base pairs.
Yeah, you have a physical bond here too. It's a very, it's not a very hard, strong bond. So these can be objects to mutation, random mutation.
Music is that?
But my point is, sorry.
Somebody's playing music and it's very annoying because I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's fucking Evolution with this fucking weird background noise.
Go ahead, Balthazar.
Just by the way, just so you know, please do not broadcast people who we don't know.
Yeah, I broadcast him. I know him.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, I invited Isaiah. He and I have been listening to this out in the outside chat.
No, it's just I don't want to get porn bombed or any of that weird shit. So I don't know the guy, so I just want to check with you the model.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, Drag, could you please get a hold of Scientist Sam or Fiona? We need to have some real evolutionary, people who are familiar with evolution.
Well, let's get Steve. Well, actually, contact Steve.
Okay, Isaiah, which I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, even though it's not spelled the same way in English. Just say, what's your idea? I don't know if you're biblical or not, or atheist or whatever.
Oh no, he knows more.
No, I don't know, but
I was going to say Isaiah knows more genetics than I do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, what's his view, and I want to hear him. I know your view, Dragon, because you're a scientist.
So everyone understood this. It was no importance in it.
I asked you a question about that. Okay, say what you said again when you were drawing the line down the middle.
No, hold on. Let's stop the James, because it's like the James Evolution show at the moment, and I want.
Okay, I don't know. Okay.
No, I want the other people to be involved. I want Isaiah, who's obviously, I guess, clued up on the whole evolution thing, and give us participation and stuff. So, Isaiah, do you want to give your little your two sticks, and then let the other guys think about what you just said? So, floor's yours.
What do you want me to do?
Well, just talk about evolution. I'm guessing you know your shit.
Well, evidently, Isaiah, I don't know if you heard, but evidently mutations are all random somehow.
I think even creationists would agree. I mean, there are some environmental factors which could cause certain mutations. Would you agree?
Can I address that? I addressed it earlier, but I'll clarify it again.
Well, you can address it after my good man's finished speaking. So if you want to be nice and polite, let him finish.
Please extend the same respect that you requested James here earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So let Isaiah speak. He's only just come in the room and he wants to speak. So Isaiah, I'm sorry, the room's yours.
Oh no, I'm just asking. See, would they agree with?
Are you posing the question, Isaiah?
Yeah, I'm just posing the question.
Are you posing that to evolution, I guess?
Whatever creationist is here.
Okay, well, pose your question directly to Mr. Evolution, and then Evolution, if you want to respond, you're free to.
Mr. Evolution, I guess. Would you agree there are environmental factors which cause certain mutations? Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. That's been observed.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Which means that there are causes for mutations, unlike somebody claiming that mutations are uncaused. Now, a individual mutation is considered random because the series of mutations that have independent causes. Saying that mutations are random means that there is not an overall deterministic reason why there is a sequence of mutations. For example, if you interject certain chemicals into a biological environment, it can cause individual point mutations.
Okay.
So are we clear? Are we clear on that? That when we talk about mutations are random, is that the deterministic cause of individual, let's say, point mutations, that there's not an overall determination for them in a given sequence, but there is a deterministic cause for individual mutations. So when scientists, or I should say advocates of the neo-Darwinian synthesis, is that mutations overall are considered random, and those random mutations that accumulate and increase genetic information and give rise to new function and survivability are preserved by survival.
Okay, I guess I agree.
Okay, so when we say that mutations are random, this is not something that a creationist advocate or an intelligent design advocate would uniquely espouse. It is something that is recognized within even the hardcore advocates of a Darwinian synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
There's no argument over this.
Can I just say very quickly to evolution that Darwin was proven incorrect even by modern day geneticists. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Darwin. Wait, I just want to clarify this as someone who is actually English, and so is Darwin. When we go to school, right? I know most people find this hard to realize, but I'm English, and we've got a lot of history to actually learn. And hello, Mach, or whatever your fucking name is. I forgot. Mark, sorry. Mach, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, Darwinism, when we learn it at school, is like, oh, well, he was just dumb. He was smart, but he was dumb. Because what Darwin proposed is that we're all chimps. Well, in fact, what he said was very racist. He said that white people were actually not chimps, and only black people were chimps. And he was profoundly proven wrong in his hypothesis. So when people say Darwin is the epitaph of evolution, yeah, he was when people were fucking stupid. But we're not stupid anymore. So why do you harp back to Darwinism as an excuse for evidence of genetics?
Well, the answer to your question is I didn't cite Charles Darwin. I said the neo-Darwinian synthesis.
No, you're using Darwin. Can you tell me who else?
Darwinism is...
Can I ask you a basic fundamental question?
I'm answering your question. Okay. Darwinism is the idea that random changes over a long period of time resulted in a universal common ancestry. This is classically known as Darwinism.
Yes.
Now, some people who believe in the theory... I'm trying to respond to you.
No, hold on. Did Darwin write that book by himself, which is called The Origins of the Species? Do you actually know the full title of that book? Do you know there was 2 people that wrote that book, apart from Charles Darwin? Do you understand this? Maybe you don't get taught this in America.
I don't know why you're changing the subject under Charles Darwin. We weren't discussing Charles Darwin.
I'm trying to make you understand that every time you use Charles Darwin, as
well,
some
you just don't like you
jail
don't
because
like the fact that I'm using the word Darwinian. That's why you're upset.
redundant.
But it's a perfectly accurate technical term.
Every time you use Charles Darwin as a get-out-of-jail-free card, it's redundant.
I did not mention Charles Darwin. I referred to the I referred to the Neo-Darwinian synthesis.
Which is a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Okay, I don't have a clue as to what you're talking about, a get-out-of-free card. But the
because when you talk about genetic,
have you ever heard of the Neo-Darwinian synthesis? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, exactly. You
okay, good. And do you know if you Google that, you understand that it is
Darwinism
that is used within biology?
You're using Darwin as the prerequisite to how
evolution. I didn't mention Charles Darwin. I referred to the Neo-Darwinian synthesis.
Not many people refer to the modern synthesis as the Neo-Darwinian.
Because
it's a mouthful. It's very rarely referred to because it's a mouthful. The majority. Hold on. Let me explain. Okay, I understand what Sai is saying. It's like when people say Barack Hussein Obama. They're using the word Hussein because they know it brings about a negative connotation. That's what I think Sai is saying. But not many people.
There's no negative connotation.
I would say it's rare that people refer to it because it's such a
loopy name. That's not true. Stephen Jay Gould himself refers to Darwinism. Do you know who Stephen Jay Gould is?
Okay, that's a lovely appeal to authority. But like I said, not many people actually refer. Yes, it is. Yes, it is actually because you wouldn't have mentioned his name if it wasn't. You wouldn't have even done that.
I didn't say he was right because.
You wouldn't have mentioned it if it wasn't pertinent to your. If it was not pertinent to your argument, you would not mention it in that context. So, like I said, I have no problem with you using that. But
an appeal to
in the literature, people do not refer to it because it is so limiting. The majority of people who are writing papers, so that's fine. So fine. Okay, then please.
Darwinism, it's fine.
I said I have no problem with it. If you're actually listening,
then what are you arguing about?
I'm not arguing with you. If you actually listen to what I was saying, the majority of people who are writing papers right now, not you, don't refer to it by Darwinian modern synthesis. Because I fucking study it, you dumbass.
Look, hold on.
Jeez, please control this fucktard. No, seriously, I sat and listened to him.
I'm trying to control it. Can you all shut the fuck up? Just everybody.
Is this how you dialogue with me?
No, everybody just shut up. Right now, everybody shut up, right? Whoever's in the fucking kitchen making a fucking dinner, everybody mute their fucking mic. The only people I want to hear is the people who are fucking talking. If you're in the kitchen with your wife, I don't care if you've got something interesting to say, mute your fucking ass. You see your computer? There's a mute button. Press it. Unless you're fucking talking in this room, mute your fucking ass. The only people I want to hear right now is Dragnauts and Evolution. They're the only people I want to hear. I don't want to hear you making fucking dinner for your fucking family, okay? I love your family, but I don't love them that much. No offense. Okay. So, everybody shut the fuck up. Now, Dragnaut, calm the fuck down. I know you're a hefty nigga like myself in the terms of what we're talking about. Now, Evolution, you calm the fuck down as well. Now the point is, Darwin. Okay, was Darwin correct in his assumptions of evolution? Go from there. You guys have got the floor.
No, Darwin wasn't correct. Darwin offered a falsification for his theory. Darwin's falsification for his theory was that, and I will quote him, Charles Darwin said that if in 100 years the fossil record doesn't bear out my claims, my theory will have collapsed. Now, 100 years since Darwin, although we have found a less than a handful of disputable transitions, the overwhelming majority of fossils that are discovered are fully formed and are not transition. It is well recognized among paleontologists, and I'll even cite Stephen Jay Gould as an example. I can find numerous quotes from him that the fossil record exemplifies stasis and not transition. Okay, now that's not the only line of reasoning and evidence.
Back you up.
Right? I know what Gould's quote you're referring to, and in the quote he's not arguing it against transitional fossils.
I didn't say that he was.
Hold on, he's arguing.
No, I didn't.
You said he acknowledged it wasn't.
No, I said that Stephen Jay Gould really acknowledges Stephen Jay Gould.
How about you extend the respect to people that you demanded of
well,
others?
How about that? He just misquoted
how about you extend the respect that you demand of others and wait until your turn?
And you're calling me a fucktard, and you're telling me how to be polite.
Can you just stop? Come on. Come on, guys.
Now Dragonite. Now, unless you give me an apology for calling me a fucktard, I will not respond to you any further.
No, we're all adults here, right? Let the guy finish what he's saying in response to what you're saying.
All right.
Let him finish.
You're talking about me being polite, and you're cursing me out in here?
We're all adults. Just let him finish. Hold on. So, Isaiah, let him finish. Don't interrupt mid-sentence. Let him
go ahead, Isaiah.
And then you can critique him afterwards. Isaiah, go.
No. I mean, what were you trying to say? Evolution or whatever your name is.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I'm simply pointing out is you misconstrued what I said. Stephen Jay Gould was not arguing against the general theory of evolution or the Darwinian theory of evolution. He was a staunch advocate of it. But in spite of his total embrace of the theory of evolution, he recognized that the fossil record that we now possess exemplifies stasis and not overall transition. This can be clearly shown from Stephen Jay Gould's advocating what is called punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated equilibrium was a concept that he strongly promoted along with his colleague Niles Eldredge, that evolution happened in very quick spurts rather than slow transition over a long period of time.
Yes,
my point in citing Stephen Jay Gould, the eminent expert on the theory of evolution, was not that he did not believe in the theory of evolution, but that he recognized that the fossil record exemplified overall stasis and not overall transition, and hence his advocacy of punctuated equilibrium.
So if I could just say something.
That wasn't the point I was trying. Well, that wasn't the point I was trying to make.
All right, sure. Hold on. The only woman in the room. I'm going to be sexist towards all the males. Helena, go for it.
I just want to say that I'm not so sure that you're going to get agreement on your first point about Stephen Jay Gould, but I think that you will get agreement on your second point that he sort of introduced the idea of punctuated equilibrium, whatever. But it's not that he thought that was the only means. He wanted to introduce it as an alternative. Because sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes you get these spikes and you get a sudden sort of growth. So it's not that it discounted sort of the more slow, gradual sort of Dawkins idea. It's just that, in addition, sometimes you get these spurts, and that punctuated equilibrium. Sometimes I can't.
Equilibrium, baby.
Yeah, that's not even.
And the reason why he was such a strong advocate of punctuated equilibrium was because the fact that the fossil record equilibrium.
Okay.
Not
punctuated equilibrium.
Equilibrium. Right.
No,
okay.
Okay.
So hold on. So you want to say that the reason was.
The reason why he was such a staunch advocate and one of the main progenitors of punctuated equilibrium was because he readily recognized that the fossil record overall exemplifies stasis and not transition.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's even suppose that's true.
It's not true.
What does that mean for you?
Well, I was asked originally when I came in the room. I was not speaking. I was questioned about my name and asked why I believe that the theory of evolution was false.
Nobody questioned you.
I was asked in the text. Okay, all right, hold on. I will scroll up on the text and I will copy and paste the question.
We can show you because it's actually fucking recorded. That's a false accusation.
The question is,
hold on a second. Here's the question
I'd like to ask. What is punctuated equilibrium?
I'll be glad
to
address.
How does that idea support your?
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I was just stated that I told something false. Here is the question that was given to me in the text when I entered the room. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, and then I posted, is that a question for me? And the answer was yes. So whoever said that I was lying, there you have prima facie evidence.
I'm sorry. It's my voice. Right?
No, Sty, I need you to hang on a moment. Okay, we just need to make room for somebody. So, who was last in? If can somebody give up a spot?
Anybody who's not speaking can get the fuck out. So there we go. Goodbye.
Okay.
But the point is, right, I wasn't calling you a liar, right? The fact is we have two different mediums. One is a video chat and one is a side chat now. I said to you that nobody in the video chat said that. As far as I'm aware, she's got the dogs. We know who's got the fucking dogs at this point. It's Helena. Beautiful eyes, like a little.
Sorry,
okay,
I usually manage
video,
to mute beforehand.
No, anyway,
you meant video, not text. We got it. You meant video, not text. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I don't want to distract from that. The point being is, right, Evolution, I don't know who you are, right? I honestly don't. You've joined the room. I've only just met you, but you assume to be a God-fearing person at this point, I guess, because that's the only explanation for you to discount Evolution. Because you have a problem with God / Adam and Eve / evolution. That is the conundrum, and that is the basis of it. We're arguing about semantics.
That's a non-sequitur.
No, okay,
are you going to let me respond, or are you going to lecture me?
No,
are you just going to attack me and allow me to respond or
not? I'm trying to get round the minutiae.
Okay, do you want a response, yes or no?
No, well, anything I ask you. Well, I'm not. There's no reason.
Yeah, you are attacking me. Are you going to let me respond or not?
Well,
you're a grown man on the internet. Calm the fuck down. Let's just have a conversation. Let's stop all this posturing.
Don't bother addressing me any further. You won't get a response from your person.
I don't give a shit. Look, you treat people how you want to be treated.
Do you want me?
Evolution.
Jeez. Do you want me to respond?
Man.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Evolution. But you need to let me just finish my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
Just really briefly.
It's fucking impossible.
There's nothing I would gain in my entire existence from making you feel bad. There just isn't. You have a belief system. This is what we're discussing. We're trying to understand how you believe what you do. This is the point of the conversation. It's not about me being better than you or me being smarter than you or all that shit. It's about understanding another human being and their perception.
Okay, good. May I respond?
Can you get with that shit?
May I respond?
I finish his statement.
Okay,
I've finished.
All right, I'd like to respond. It is a non sequitur that you just threw out, that because I believe in God, I'm necessarily opposed to evolution. There are an enormous amount of people on this planet, both educated and uneducated, who believe in God, who fully embrace and accept the theory of evolution. There are even atheists who call into question the modern evolutionary synthesis, or, as I like to refer to it, and other people have, the Darwinian synthesis, that randomization followed by survival can account for the entire complex genome. So
it can.
It is a genetic fallacy. In philosophy, a genetic fallacy is that a person's
you don't need to lecture. We know we all
I'm not talking to you, Dragon. Don't bother talking to me, Dragon.
We all know what it is. We all know
Dragon,
what it is.
I'm gonna put you on mute.
Okay, Drag, behave.
Hold on. You are Dragon. You're now on
the the guy. Okay.
Drag, let him finish. Come on. Bite your lip.
When he expresses the same freaking courtesy towards others.
Okay, bottom line is this. Is whether or not I believe in God.
So, that's going to be cool.
It is not directly
two people are talking, since I can now not
to
understand
the veracity of my criticism.
I'm just going to bring down the hammer right now. Did you want me to bring down the hammer? Is that what you want?
Well, then tell him
to stop blocking
people.
I'm trying to let both of you fucking just be adults.
I have two. There are two people in here who
obviously cannot behave himself.
Well,
I sat and listened to this dude for 10 minutes complain about the same shit
whether
that he's
or
doing
not
to
I
other
believe
people.
in God,
Literally, I'm talking to James.
Not discredit what my criticisms that I'm making about the modern
I'll come in on a
evolutionary
socket.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to do something I've never done before and I never want to do.
No, wait, stay, what is
it? I'm just going to do this. Just for the two people in the room who are arguing.
You do not have control. I am the moderator of this room. I am the creator of this room.
I know, but...
Broadcast them
back. Stop talking.
No, you guys are both adults.
Stop talking, Sty, for one moment.
Shut up and stop talking over me. You've got nothing to say, Simon. Shut up.
Let the person that running the room, who is going to make the decision, just say something.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, we're going to broadcast back Evolution.
But I was fine.
Dragnot is going to come back on a sock account, hopefully.
He never got blocked. I was just trying to shut them up.
So meanwhile, can we please...
Sty, could you please quiet for a moment and let
Simon, can you stop being a pretentious fucking cunt? Yeah. You southern little prick. I swear if I met you in a bar, I would glass your face. Just don't talk to me anymore.
What a prick you are. Okay.
No, just don't talk to me. You're a pretentious southern little prick. Shut up. Shut your mouth.
Well, no, that's nice. Perhaps we could get our fundy friends under control before they start trying to ruin Hangouts again.
Dragnot, honestly, I didn't do that in a way of disrespect. I was just trying to stop you two from fucking going back and forth.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't know if.
Can you just clean slate everything now and quit with the ego or the emotions and get back to the issues?
I'm trying to do that, but my laptop's
I'm interested in what this gentleman has to say.
I'm not, but you know, I want to talk.
I can't see past all the dicks. Pardon
me. I tell you, if he extends some respect, I'm not going to bend over backwards for somebody who doesn't know shit. Okay. So if he extends a bit of respect, just a bit of respect goes a long way with me.
Let me say something to you. You don't need him in the room, right? If all you want to do is, bash, you don't need him in the room.
I'm not. I'm trying to have conversation with him.
Where he's coming from, and then you need him in the room, which means you would need to listen to what he has to say.
I have no problem with that. Hell no. I have no problem with that at all.
Sty, if I can just say, Sty, you kind of put on him this God thing. His claim was that his position with respect to God and gods is not really relevant to his argument. But none of us have heard his argument yet. I'd like to hear it.
Well, if I get, and people know who've dealt with me before. If you extend respect to me, I'll give it back. But I'm not going to sit here and bend over backwards for somebody who's posturing and who has been condescending to people ever since I've been watching this broadcast. I'm not going to play that game with him. I'm not going to do it at all.
None of us are perfect. We all can condescend and be cunts. We should all extend some leeway, some slack here, right? I've talked to Evolution before. I don't have much of a bad experience with him. He's been cordial. The same thing if you're cordial with him, he's going to be cordial with you. We have to take into consideration that he's talking to, a room full of atheists who are challenging him. I think if we're going to be, going to come down here, we're going to have a discussion. Yeah. I'm hoping to actually invite Scientist Sam or Fiona, who actually know.
Okay. I sent.
Do you own this room?
I sent the link. I was going to say, I sent a link to Sam. Sam is trying to get in.
Art, I'm going to be leaving the room if the room doesn't get under control soon.
But see, this is what I'm talking about.
So if I ask the first question.
No, I'm not being
quite ready yet.
Respectfully,
my interest is how does Gould's theory help your theory?
Okay, if the fossil record did not exemplify stasis, then Gould would not have a very good reason to be a prime advocate of punctuated equilibrium.
Okay.
Gould was motivated along with others. He wasn't the only one, but he's one of the. Well, he's deceased now, along with Niles Eldredge. He was motivated, and he didn't invent the idea of punctuated equilibrium, but he was motivated as to come up with an alternate explanation. In addition to supplement gradualism, to account for why the fossil record actually exemplifies stasis. Now, it is indisputable that the fossil record exemplifies stasis. Now, there are a handful of disputable transitional fossils. I'll just cite, for example, Tiktaalik or examples like Archaeopteryx. But overall, we do not have a great deal of transitional species. What we do find...
so I think that you're going to have... Okay, go ahead, sorry.
No, just go ahead.
So I think that you're going to find a lot of opposition about that claim that the fossil record is absolutely exemplified by stasis or exemplified stasis.
It's widely recognized by paleontologists.
But so if we suppose that's true, what does that mean for you?
Well, that would be an example of what we would expect to find if the I won't use the term neo-Darwinian synthesis, because it's so offending to some people. The modern evolutionary synthesis, what we would expect to find, is a greater level, even a massive level of transitional species, and this is what we do not find. Now, I was asked
to you that what?
I was asked initially on why I believed evolution was false. And I initially started off that it was a cumulative case, that there are a number of reasons combined together to call into question the efficacy of the modern evolutionary synthesis, that there is a mechanism out there, and people commonly refer to it as natural selection, that can adequately account for a universal common ancestor.
Okay, so for you, it's really important, this idea, so this is, to me, seems to be the thing that we need to talk about at least right now, the idea that the fossil record is static, and there are no actual transitions in the fossil record, and if there are, they're not very good ones. That is one of the hinge things for you.
Well, I actually said stasis.
Okay.
It's a little bit different term.
Okay, so I think that a lot of people here, probably everybody, would disagree with that particular claim. So maybe we can talk about.
Oh, it's easily Googled. It's easily Googled. It's widely recognized. Gould himself said in a number of places that that the fossil record exemplifies stasis, although there are some good examples of transition. But the fossil record as a whole does not exemplify stasis. This is not something.
You mean does?
Excuse me?
You said does not, but you mean to say does.
Okay, yeah, the fossil record does exemplify stasis. This is not actually a debatable point.
I think that we maybe would have disagreement about that.
No, he's
okay,
right.
Well, it's commonly understood. It's commonly understood by people who are familiar with evolution that the fossil record is an example of gradualistic development. For example, when you go to museums or if you watch a documentary on evolution or in textbooks, you will see a pictographic example of one skeleton to another. These are these are artificial constructs because there is no empirical methodology to demonstrate an ancestor-descendant relationship between the mineralized fossils. Okay, so the reason why they are put in certain orders and sequences is due to inferences, not through empirical methodology.
That's actually false.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Oh, okay, good. Could you tell me what? Okay, if that's false, I have a quick question. If that is false, I'm responding. He said that's false. I'm going to ask a quick question. If what I just said is false, can you please
let him get through the question?
Okay, let me finish my brief question. I was just accused of saying something's false. If what I just said is false, please tell me one empirical methodology that demonstrates an ancestor-descendant relationship between any two mineralized fossils.
Well, you've made two errors here. The first error is that what paleontologists say is not that they are actual ancestors, but that phylogenetically they would fall in a similar time zone with similar characteristics to what we would expect
you didn't answer my question.
To be. I'm in the middle of my explanation. All right, you just.
But that's not an answer to my question.
Moderation. Let him finish. Let him finish.
Let me finish. The second thing is that there are empirical ways that we determine that these things, if not ancestors, were probably close cousins, and that's using phylogenetics. That's looking at what shared characteristics fit along a timeline of acquired characteristics and what the relationship of these shared characteristics are.
Okay, that's not an answer to my question.
There are really complex methods that are empirical that people
Okay,
use.
well, you didn't answer my question. That's not an answer. I'll ask you.
You're entitled
other
to your opinion.
Other than use the term phylogenetics, I'll ask the question again. What specific empirical methodology is there to demonstrate an ancestor-descendant relationship between any two mineralized fossils?
Again, I have to say that this is a straw man of what paleontologists are actually saying.
No, I asked you a question. It's not a straw man. I asked a question.
Well,
is your question
you're addressing a claim no one makes. So, I just gave you my opinion on it. So.
I didn't make a claim. I asked you a question. All right. Now, what is the empirical methodology that is used?
You could ask me what the square root of a pork chop is. That doesn't mean that it's not
so
a
now you're
question.
dodging. You don't even understand the nature of my question. Okay.
It's a malformed question. I just explained why it's a malformed
methodologies
question.
such as homology that they use to infer a familial descendancy. But homology is not an empirical methodology.
Yes,
it's inferential. It's inferential.
It is empirical. Okay. You can look at genetic sequences. You can look at the underlying structure. I'm a biologist by trade.
Oh, okay, good. Then tell me what the empirical methodology is to demonstrate an ancestor-descendant relationship between two mineralized fossils.
I just said that no one is claiming that that's the case. So you are making a false claim. I didn't make a false claim. I simply said that your question's malformed.
No, it's not malformed. No, it's not malformed. The reason why I asked the question is because it is assumed that there is a scientific methodology, an empirical methodology, where they can link these different mineralized fossils. Now, my original point was simply this, is that when people look at these depictions of artist renditions, let's say of whale evolution, and they say, well, this skeleton evolved into this one to this one, this is a largely inferential process on the part of paleontologists. They're not using empirical tools.
Which you said was a version of science you agreed with.
Mineralized fossils.
Well, there are two things to say to this. And the first thing
by the way,
is that
what is your degree in biology?
I have a master's degree in biology, and I'm a PhD student currently.
Good, excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
And what are yours?
I didn't claim I had a degree.
Whoa, how is this pertinent to the conversation at all?
I know. Why is it?
It doesn't. You're the one who brought in credentials.
No, I didn't bring up creationism.
I said credentials.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. No, I didn't bring up credentials. You did. You told me that you had a degree.
What? Are we serious? Are we really listening?
Yeah, I am
really doing this right now.
You brought up your academic background. I didn't question your academic background until you brought it up. I just said, what is your degree?
Sam, I'm sorry.
Let's be done with
I'm sorry,
being
Sam.
pedantic. The first thing that I have to point out is that you're just misrepresenting what paleontologists actually say. When you look at,
can you tell me specifically what I said?
I'm in the middle of a goddamn sentence. Are you like socially retarded, or like I'm taking time out of my lab right now at the request of someone to be in here? So, can I continue and complete a sentence without you interrupting me? I haven't interrupted you yet. Is that fair?
Go ahead.
Conduct ourselves like adults. Okay. So
Sam, could I quickly? Sam, sorry. I just wanna. I'm the moderator, so. But I just like to say, Sam, it's awesome that you're here. I beg you, please, could you explain to me why specified complexity?
I'm
thing
not, but bullshit? I'm talking. Oh, why are we jumping topics?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
God damn it. So the first thing is that you're misrepresenting what paleontologists and what evolutionary biologists actually say on the issue. What they actually say is that if you look at the timeline of characteristics and how they were developed within phylogenetic relationships, and you find a fossil that has these characteristics at the expected time, then this is probably something that looks like the ancestor, but at the very least has a cousin relationship to the current, extant species. Does that make sense as an explanation?
I didn't find anything you said objectionable as to what they do. And could you tell me specifically? That's what they say. Could you tell me specifically, and please quote me to the best of your memory, what I said that was a misrepresentation?
You said that people were inferring ancestor-descendant relationships. They're not.
Oh, okay. If they don't infer it, how is an ancestor?
They're taking approximate estimations of cousin relationships that may or may not resemble ancestor relationships.
Okay, if they're not inferring,
it's a probabilistic statement.
Okay, good. If they're not inferring an ancestor-descendant relationship between any two mineralized fossils, how is that relationship determined if it's not by inference?
What do you mean?
You said the ancestor-descendant relationship between two mineralized fossils is not inferred. Then what is the methodology that is used to determine ancestor-descendant relationship between two mineralized fossils?
What I'm trying to tell you, and I don't know if you're just not listening to me or you're being
No, I am
dense.
listening to you.
What I'm saying is that that paleontologists and evolutionary biologists don't make any hard statements about ancestor-descendant relationships and don't infer them.
Oh, really? They don't have charts showing an evolutionary development?
What they do have is they have possible transitions that are representative of cousin relationships.
Oh, so it's possible. So it's more conjecture, right?
Conjecture is not the right word for it.
Okay, is it inferred? Is it inferred?
They don't make any statements on ancestor-descendant relationship.
Oh, so in other words, they don't believe that there's a universal common ancestry?
No, that's not what I said.
Really?
When you have
really?
That. Okay, do you understand that?
Paleontologists don't believe in the theory of evolution?
No, that's not what I said. Why are you intentionally misunderstanding me?
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic.
Not intentionally. You're just making statements that they don't infer a ancestor-descendant relationship. Well, then how are they determined?
Okay, I'm going to try to break this down simply, more simply than I would introduce a high school student to it, which is what I just did. Okay, so let's say that, for example, the best known transitional form between, tetrapods and fish is not a good term, but we'll go with it for now. The best known transition is Tiktaalik rosier, which is about 400 million years ago, and I'm stretching my knowledge at this point, but the point being is that we know there's actually a lot of vigorous debate as to whether that was actually coextensive with our actual common ancestor or if it just overlapped. But the point being is that we know that it's something like that cousin relationship represents something that would probably reflect an ancestor relationship on the basis of what characteristics we expected to observe in that fossil at that time.
I still didn't hear an answer to my question. How is any ancestor-descendant relationship demonstrated?
I just said that they don't look for ancestor-descendant relationships. I literally have explained this in 6 different ways at this point. So I don't know.
So there's no conjectured familial descent that is inferred.
What do you mean by that? I know what each of those words mean.
So there's no mental connection between one fossil might be in some way a descendant. Of another fossil? If it's not inferred,
what they say is that they have a familiar relationship.
You said they don't infer.
They have a cousin relation. Okay, you need to imagine this as you're clearly not understanding me. So
no, I understand evolution very well.
Imagine this as. Do you really though?
Yes, I do.
Because as someone who's actually educated in the field, I have to say that I'm not getting that impression. Because
okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Can you answer my question?
Imagine
how are ancestor relationships determined in paleontology?
They don't make inferences about ancestor relationships.
Really? Then why do we have depictions in museums and textbooks that a sequential?
Because those are outlining. Do you understand that transitional forms represent distant ancient cousins of extant species?
Is that in showing that there's a relationship?
Well, isn't cousinship a familial relationship?
Yeah. Is it when you have transition? Is there an ancestor-descendant relationship in some way?
I'm going to assume that you're human and you have great-grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Are your cousins as the relationship of your great-grandparents?
Yeah, but ultimately, in all of those relationships, there are ancestor-descendant relationships. So that's what I'm asking.
What I'm saying is
when
they
it
don't
comes
make
to the fossil record, let's get back to square one again. In the fossil record,
Moderation.
Do you not understand that they're not making a direct inference between a given fossil and an extant organism in terms of ancestor descendant? They're making a cousin statement. And in the same way that you still are related to your cousins, your distant cousins from generations back, we're still related to our distant cousins from millions of years back.
Does the theory of evolution teach that there is a universal common ancestry?
Yes.
Okay, do paleontologists believe that in the fossil record that there are some fossils that have some type of ancestor-descendant relation?
That some fossils have some type.
Yeah.
No, they don't make that inference.
Oh, really? Then
it's a cousin. I literally
universal
just
common
explained this
ancestry
6
then.
times. Like, do you not understand how cousin relationships work?
Yeah,
Just from
I
a family
perfectly
tree.
do. I perfectly
You don't
do.
seem to, because you don't seem to be understanding what I'm saying. And that's really worrisome to me, because it just implies that you have a preconceived.
Okay, but when you say there's a transition, are you referring to some type of ancestor-descendant relationship?
No. So what a transitional fossil is a fossil that contains characters that are across either
What does it transition
past or
from?
now existed. I'm in the middle of a sentence. Can you behave like an adult, please? I would assume we're both adults. If I'm talking to a child, please let me know.
Well,
Then
I
I'll
don't need
expect
to
that
be
level of
lectured,
behavior.
and you're
Well,
lecturing.
I mean, look,
want to know what the
you're
transition is
I'm
from.
letting you talk fully. You're not letting me complete sentences. What a transitional fossil refers to is a fossil that contains characteristics from now or past divergent monophyletic clades. Do you need me to break down those terms?
No. Do you mean by that there's some type of a descendant relationship?
No.
Oh my God.
I didn't mention descendant in that definition. I mentioned that that it contains characteristics from 2 now or past divergent monophyletic clades. Do you need me to break down any of those terms?
Does the fossil record demonstrate in any sense a universal common ancestry?
See, it's a complicated question. I would say that it demonstrates the consistency of homologies gone to the past, but the last universal common ancestor is something that probably couldn't fossilize, or a group of, I should say, a community of organisms that could.
So you can't answer the question whether or not the fossil record in any sense demonstrates a universal common ancestry?
It demonstrates it is corroborating evidence of patterns of descent that are shared across many.
Okay, and is
clades.
not descent and some type of ancestor-descendant relationship?
I said it's consistent with patterns of descent that match
Does
current clades.
Does descent infer some type of ancestor-descendant relationship?
The word you're looking for is imply, but you're
Does
not
it
listening to what I
suggest?
said.
Does descent suggest in any way a ancestor-descendant relationship?
Are we talking about paleontology? Or are we talking broadly the theory of evolution?
I'm talking about in paleontology.
In paleontology, I just told you that it corroborates patterns of descent that we would expect.
Okay, good. How is it determined that there is any relationship in descent in paleontology?
I didn't say that paleontology determines it. I said
okay,
that it
so does
corroborates
paleontology not indicate that there was a biological descent?
What do you mean by that? Could you clarify the question?
Do the archaeological, I shouldn't say the archaeology, do the fossil remains that we have found in any way indicate ancestry?
In the sense that they corroborate known relationships among extant species, it's corroborating
How do you
evidence.
show a relationship between any 2 mineralized fossils?
I mean, they're cousin relationships. The way that you would do it is you look at what characteristics, what homologies, if we're going to use the word.
Okay, so they branched off from, but they all have
conserved.
some type of common ancestor, right?
That is,
for example, my cousin
you just
and
asked me a
me
question
have a
and then
common
you
ancestor, right?
Are you going to let me answer the question, or are you answering it for me?
I'm waiting.
Like I said, it's a corroboration of the model of descent.
What does that mean?
Well, corroboration means that it.
Oh, so it's an indication
supports.
that there's a descent, right? And how is it corroborated?
through synapomorphies and homologies.
Okay, and how does homology demonstrate that there's any sense of descent?
It matches what are predicted relationships between cousins.
Okay, so
the prediction is matched, and the implication of the prediction is common descent.
So what you're saying is similarity in skeletal remains is indicative of descent. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So then, how then does
would you
homology demonstrate descent?
Would you like me to clarify? Because I'm pretty positive by that description that you don't understand homology at all.
Okay. Well, how does homology demonstrate in any sense descent?
Right. So if you have a model that predicts common descent, you're going to predict certain relationships between certain classes of organisms with certain characteristics. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And if you find organisms in specific times that have specific characteristics that appear in a specific way, that would be, a validation of those predictions. Would you agree with that?
Would that be the only possible explanation of similarity?
I was asking a yes or no question.
Okay.
Of Jewish descent, so I can appreciate answering a question with a question, but I think I was pretty clear about how specific my question.
I'm sorry. Repeat your question.
Thank you. So if you find fossils that have the characteristics that you expect in the arrangement that you expect at the time that you expect, would that not be a validation of that prediction, that hypothesis?
It might be consistent, but it doesn't necessarily follow that there's a descendant relationship.
I'm just asking if it's consistent with the model. I mean,
it might be consistent. It might be consistent.
When you come up with a scientific prediction, you don't actually affirm anything. What you say is that, to your best of knowledge, the evidence is consistent with the model that you're presenting, and until a better model appears.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that because there's a similarity in skeletal remains, it would be consistent with some type of evolutionary descent. Is that your position?
It's a specific type of similarity. It's a homology.
That's correct. And what we were talking about,
well,
fossilized
we should be
remains.
careful. I mean, if we're going to talk about evolution, let's be careful about what we're saying, because there are two types of similarity: homology and analogy. Do you know the difference between those two?
Yes, I do.
Could you explain that for me?
Analogy would be a comparison.
No. In the context of anatomy and biology, biology writ large.
I'm still waiting to find out how.
I'm asking because I don't want to be speaking, because it seems like a lot of this I'm speaking past you, and that's no offense.
Well, you can be.
So I'm asking you, what do you know?
Be condescending all you want. We're beating around the bush here. Does the fossil record demonstrate universal common ancestry?
It's consistent with the model of universal common ancestry. I don't know what you would consider a sufficient demonstration.
It's consistent.
I mean, short of a time machine, I'm not really. We're talking about a historical claim. So, what would be a consistent demonstration from your point of view?
Okay.
How would I prove you wrong?
Would similarity in certain?
Well, you've been interrogating me, so allow me to ask you a question, which is what would be sufficient proof for me to actually outline to actually prove, common descent, given your worldview.
I would just like to know what is some compelling evidence of universal common ancestry, given the fact that the fossil record exemplifies stasis.
The issue with that is that there's two things. First off, there are known biases in the fossil record, and that actually would lead you to believe that there's more stasis than there would be, because certain things just don't fossilize. And also,
so wait a minute. Are you assuming that they don't fossilize?
No.
Are you assuming?
There are certain things that do not tend to fossilize.
Well, how do you know if it's not there? How do you know they didn't fossilize?
Can I stop for a second, guys? Now, I hate to interrupt you. Can we let Dave say something? He's been trying for 3/4 of an hour just to make a comment or two.
Well, I think we could get into the interesting question of, or the interesting issue of the philosophy of science, and how do we, you know, how does evidence confirm a hypothesis or disconfirm a hypothesis? Oh.
James, we can hear you typing.
That's me. I'll mute myself again.
Sorry, I think I muted myself there.
I mean, I'm pretty much in line with what you tend to think, Dave. So me outlining my thoughts is a bit superfluous, to say the least.
Did you want to go with it, Sam, at this point? Did you want to
well, I mean, I think
carry on one particular line, or are you happy
I mean,
to...
sure. I mean, I'm not a paleontologist, so I'm not necessarily the best like, I'm knowledgeable, but it's by no means my best domain of knowledge when it comes to biology. Like,
I'm a complete illiterate on biology, but when you said cousins relationship for about the third time, I finally got it. So I think I got the point about.
For me, it was the fifth.
You know, descent.
Yeah.
Art's here.
Through,
Oh my
descent
goodness.
through cousin lines.
Yeah.
Can you
well,
leave
I mean, that's,
someone, Art? Please.
It took me. It took me years to really understand that when you think about it as a family tree, that's really the only way that you can conceptualize what's going on. You know, you could imagine that, you know, for example, I can give a very good concrete example. My great-great-grandfather, I think on my day, was an Orthodox rabbi and pope. Now, you know, I think 3 people from that fairly large family came over to the U.S. in the late 1800s, and they obviously survived, and now, you know, me as an end result. But the, you know, however many other cousins, I believe it was around a dozen, all died in the Holocaust. And similar to the way that if we were able to, if there was some way of, you know, measuring the relationship, you know, the predicted relationship between me and them, even though we're, you know, distant cousins, it's the same way that we could measure it between, you know, let's say Tiktaalik and present-day humans.
Mm-hmm. How would you do that when in Tiktaalik there is no DNA intact?
Well, we don't need.
And by the way, didn't they find tetrapod footprints that were many millions of years older than Tiktaalik? If Tiktaalik is considered a transitional species, how do you account for the fact that tetrapod footprints have been found quite older in alleged rock layers than Tiktaalik?
So I think the official literature. Well, I mean, the question comes down to what is a transition. The first thing is that I think there's a misunderstanding of what paleontologists mean by and evolutionary biologists mean by a transitional form. What's meant by a transitional form is that it has the characteristics of 2 divergent groups. Instead of clades, I'll use the word groups. And so it represents the blend of characteristics that would exist before those 2 groups diverged. So there's no hard claim as to whether Tiktaalik was the actual you know set of ancestors, but we know that the time at which we found Tiktaalik is right in the exact area when we would expect this
and how do you know how old these rocks are?
You know how old the rocks are via 2 methods: index fossils and dating methods.
Oh, are you referring to radiometric isotope dating?
Yes.
Okay, good. And how does radiometric isotope dating scientifically determine the age of a rock?
I am not an expert on geology, but from my understanding of the basic physics and chemistry involved, you take a representative sample from the rock that has been where the there's a crystal that locks in the composition of the rock, and you have to date that layer across several crystal samples, and you use isotope ratios and fit them along a power law.
Well, let me ask you this: if you have the parent element and it decays over time into the daughter element, and you detect that particular daughter element isotope, and you have the known rate of decay, how is the exact atomic state of the parent element determined?
That's stretching beyond what
I'm familiar with off the top of
Well, I'll give you the answer. There is no way. It's a complete guess.
Well, I mean, you can determine isotopes via, I know that you can use spectrometry to determine isotopes.
Well, that's in reference to the daughter element, not the parent element.
But
the parent element no longer exists.
I mean, conceivably, they're calculating the ratio based upon the ratio of parent to daughter.
Well, the parent element is assumed. The only way to determine what the exact atomic state of the parent element was before it became...
they measure that quote unquote assumption against other normal samples of the layer. So it's not necessarily...
There is no way short of a time machine to ascertain what the exact atomic state that the daughter element was when it was the parent element. So it must be
really quick.
Conjecture.
I hate to jump in. What is your educational background?
What does that have anything to do with
it? You basically said there's no way. I just want to know what is your background. I think that's a legitimate question.
Is there a more pertinent question that you have? Is there something that you expect?
I'm curious. Why are you so defensive?
It's the same exact question you asked Sam earlier. It's the same question you asked Sam earlier.
I'm curious. You're ruling out. You seem to confidently rule out. So I want to know what is the. I'm curious. I'm curious.
Well, people think that because there is a widespread consensus, that consensus is highly indicative that something is true, and that's simply not the case given the history of science. That consensuses come and they go.
Nobody says
now,
consensus.
The current consensus.
Well, I think that this is an issue because here's the thing: is when there have been consensuses, I don't know what the plural is. When there have been consensuses in science that have been overthrown, it's by paradigms that actually produce experimental results. I mean, there isn't another paradigm out there than evolution.
Not according to philosopher Thomas Kuhn, who wrote The Structure of Scientific Revolutions.
I know, I've read the book, but I don't have to agree.
As you should well know, that he says that the changes in paradigms don't come by discoveries, but because the old guard dies out and the new guard comes in without the previous paradigm's presuppositions.
Yeah, but that's an oversimplification, and I don't agree with Kuhn.
No, it's not an oversimplification at all. He says paradigm shifts come because the old guard dies off.
I mean, also there also has to be there also has to be the element of where certain models outperform other models.
Let's get back.
It's a mix. It's not just one totalizing account.
Let's get back to your area of expertise, which is biology. I'm just curious, what accounts for the specific arrangement of nucleotides in an evolutionary descent, such as universal common ancestry? What accounts for their specific arrangement prior to survival?
What does that even mean?
Well, the genetic information is the result of the nucleotide sequencing. Isn't that correct?
Well, prior to survival, what does that even mean?
Well, in the theory of evolution, you have the idea of natural selection, where you have various biological changes, random mutations, and those mutations and biological changes that infer an increase of fitness
and
result in survival.
Imply and increase. Please stop mixing up infer and imply.
Right. So what accounts for the specific arrangement of the new genetic information, which would comprise the nucleotide sequences?
I mean, natural selection.
No, natural selection is just what survives. I'm asking you what happens prior to survival.
What do you mean prior to survival?
In order to have a universal common ancestry from the least complex organism up until man, you have to have a net increase of genetic information. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, in order to have new genetic information, you have to have an accrual of new nucleotide sequences. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
good.
What's your point? Are you asking how?
What accounts
do you mean?
What accounts for this?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If I was to more succinctly phrase your question, is it how do you add more DNA to a genome?
No, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
I understand that you have point mutations, insertions, deletions, frame shifts, gene duplication. What I'm asking you for is that the new information that you agreed accrues that results in an ever-increasing genome and hence a universal common ancestry. What accounts for the specific arrangement of those nucleotide sequences that would constitute new genetic information?
I mean, isn't that just whichever variants survive? It's natural selection.
No,
isn't it?
survival comes after the fact when you have an increase of new genetic information that produces new function.
What
and
do you
an
increase
increase
by
of fitness.
after the fact? What is the fact? Like you're being
I'm
incredibly
talking
unclear
about
here.
when you have an increase of nucleotide sequences.
What do you mean by prior to survival? You're going on this long-winded explanation.
Well,
You can't explain it
survival
simply.
is what would fix, survival is that which would fix the increase of new genetic information.
What do you mean by fix?
Natural selection.
What do you mean by fix? Like you're being incredibly sloppy with terminology, and I can't tease out what you're trying to say.
How shall I explain it?
Because it sounds like there's like a Goldilocks zone that things don't survive in.
Fix, would it make you feel better? A preservation of new genetic information, would that make you happy?
I mean, I don't under.
Okay, so what you have in the theory of evolution, the theory of evolution, you have a variety of mutations which accrues new genetic information that results in new function and an increase of fitness, and that for fitness results in survivability. Now, what accounts for the specific arrangement at a nucleotide level for the increase of information? What accounts for that arrangement?
What do you mean, what accounts for that arrangement? I don't see what you're trying
complex
to...
genetic information is based upon the arrangement of nucleotides, is it not?
Well, I mean, are you asking whether traits are transmitted? Like, I don't understand what you're trying to ask here. Like, you're on the one hand, you're saying, okay, we can.
Genetic information.
I've let you try
within
to
the
explain
arrangement
this.
of nucleotides, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That information is based upon the specific arrangement of those nucleotides, not just any nucleotide sequence.
Yeah, I'll agree that codons specify specific amino acids. Okay, where are you going with this? Where is the gap here? Because you've just outlined.
All right, I'll ask the question again since you didn't understand it. In order for there
if
to
I'm
be
not
a universal
understanding
common
it, it's
ancestry,
either that. Well, let me say something.
I think I made myself
perfectly
clear.
And let me say something. All right. If I'm not understanding it, it's either because I'm stupid or because you're not being clear. Now, I don't think I'm stupid, but I have an ego. So.
Okay, good. Now, genetic information is based in the nucleotide sequences, is it not?
Yeah.
And that information is the result of a highly specific arrangement of nucleotides.
With caveats, yes.
Okay, good. Now, in order to go from the least complex microorganism all the way to man, you need a massive increase, a net increase of new genetic information, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Genetic information is based upon a highly specific arrangement of nucleotides. What accounts for that accrual in terms of the arrangement of those nucleotides? And I'm not referring to the instance of each individual nucleotide. I'm talking about them collectively prior to each instance of survival. What accounts for that arrangement of nucleotide sequencing?
I'm really not sure what type of account you're asking for. I mean, you can add new information to the genome via things like insertions, amplifications, whole genome duplications, and then from those variants that arise.
Okay, well, gene duplication is not new
information.
information. Gene duplication is not
what do you
new
mean
information.
by new? What do you mean by new information?
It didn't exist before, or nor was it a duplicate of genetic information that already existed. If I photocopy a poem and I hand you the photocopy, is that a new poem? No, it's not. Now, but the nucleotide sequences that has to have a net increase in order for evolution to take place, that net increase of information is dependent on the specific sequencing of those new nucleotides. What accounts for this?
Well, I mean, duplicated sequences and segments and even genomes do tend to diverge. For example, in the first model organism that I ever did lab work on, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, or baker's yeast, there was a whole genome duplication, and as a result there are a bunch of gene families that are very, very similar between, I forget which groups of chromosomes it is, but the point being would be that they diverged over time. I mean,
what accounts for the new nucleotide sequencing?
I mean, it would just be mutation on acquired DNA. There can be insertions,
okay, mutation has to do with point mutations. What accounts for the arrangement of the new nucleotides?
Well, point mutations, also insertions and deletions.
I know, we've already been down that road. I'll ask the question again. What accounts for the specific arrangement of the nucleotide sequences prior to survival taking place?
Where you're trying to insert God evolution? Or what?
Yeah, I don't really understand like what the point of this questioning is. It's just him saying, I don't believe you.
Graduate degree in biology. I'm asking you a biological question. What accounts for the specific arrangement which would constitute
I've already
a
answered
net
your
increase in
question.
genetic information?
Yeah.
You're not asking a very well-formed question.
Yeah, I think the issue here. Okay, we played the game long enough. Okay, so the issue here, I don't think he's asking questions from a position that really doesn't know that much about the topic. Now, I understand he has a particular script or spiel or whatever, but it's like asking, you're talking, I'm talking now, I'm talking, thank you. So asking the question like this, what's the square root of a pork chop, isn't going to have a cogent answer.
Well, I don't know.
I'm still talking. Aestus, you're next. Go ahead, Aestus. I know you wanted to get in. That's why I wanted to break up the monotony.
Okay, thanks. So, irregardless of that, I think that to the simple analogy that you had with the poem. So now you said that, okay, there's this duplication of this poem, and that the poem doesn't contain new information, which I would argue it does, but let's say it doesn't, because you have now these two poems side by side. So now let's create a selection function, which is analogous to the selection bias that we found in nature that we call natural selection, and let's call that selection bias aesthetic. So we'll randomly mutate this poem at, say, either a word level or at a letter level, and we'll make a whole new generation of poems based off of these different mutations, and we'll have a selection bias based on aesthetic. And after mutations and generations and generations of these mutations and the selection based on aesthetic, you'll have new poems.
Has that ever been observed?
Well, actually, it's quite easy to observe those kind of things.
It has been observed that new genetic information.
Okay, how about we let him finish his statement before we ask questions?
So one of the simplest examples is fruit flies, and the other one is that this is actually kind of what I do day to day. This is called a genetic algorithm.
Could you tell me?
Okay, how about we let him finish his statement before we ask him a question?
New net genetic information.
How about we let him finish before we ask him a question?
Don't worry about it.
Just be quiet and let him talk.
But yes, it's called a genetic algorithm. If you've never heard of it, you can simulate these kind of things on a computer that you have right now.
Did you want to answer the question that Sam didn't answer?
I mean, I think that he just did. That was a pretty good answer.
I also wanted to talk about the geologic dating, because I do have a little bit of training in geology.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, since you have training in biology, and Sam didn't understand my question. In order for evolution to take place, you need a net increase in complex information.
Oh, 5 times.
That information is dependent upon the arrangement of new nucleotide sequences. What accounts for the specific arrangement of those new nucleotide sequences prior to survival? Aestus?
Well, like I said, so natural selection, or what I would rather consider.
No, this is prior to survival.
No. Again, you can't have one without the other. You cannot.
Well,
have,
when
so
before selection takes place, selection would be survival.
Because you did answer the
prior to survival. What
Okay, we're going to let Aestus finish his statement before we jump in. How about that? We're going to let him finish.
I think what you're doing is you're fundamentally misunderstanding the accruing of information, because you have this random process of mutation that is then selected for by the non-random process of this selection bias.
Is selection survival?
Yes.
Okay, good. Prior to survival, what accounts for the specific arrangement of new nucleotides?
Well, usually, like I said, it's just mutation. There's not really much information regarded in it because there hasn't been selection that has happened. But after you have a selection, then most of the time new information.
Prior to survival, what accounts for the specific arrangement of new nucleotide sequences prior to selection?
James, calm down.
I think that at this point, I mean, Aestus, that was a fantastic explanation. On your end, and you pretty much articulated what I was getting at. But I mean, fundamentally, you're just. This is. I mean, I think we should end this line of questioning simply because it's just so ignorant that we're not getting anywhere. It's a male.
How is it ignorant to ask what accounts for what is essentially what constitutes new genetic information?
Well, like I said, we've said again and again, it's point mutation. It's all these kind of things.
Point mutations would account for each individual nucleotide. What accounts for the very long sequences that would be necessary to produce new function?
Sam, you're breathing into my microphone.
What accounts for that? What accounts for that? You'll have to excuse. Hold on for a second. What accounts for that specific long nucleotide sequence prior to survival?
What do you mean prior to survival? Because, I mean, what Aestus has given is a pretty good account of what happens, so that those
you have to have a
emerge.
Net increase. You have to have a net increase of genetic information. That net increase of information has to.
But why does that have
function and fitness?
Yeah,
if there's no increase in fitness,
I think what's happening is that you assume that this net increase happens in a single generation.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all.
So how about we define something? Hold on, Jens. How about we define something? What is the scenario in which it is be considered pre-survival? Because as far as I'm my very limited understanding in education, there is no condition to which something does not survive. If it doesn't survive, it's dead. So what can we describe the scenario so that we get it out there and we understand it and we're not assuming?
It's actually very simple. It's called when that genome reproduces descendants.
Okay, those descendants are still subject to survival.
Now, Aestus, if the theory of evolution is
I've just got to say, fuck me.
If the theory of evolution is true, you have to have a net increase of genetic information. Is that correct?
Did you stop asking?
No, actually, it doesn't. You could actually lose some genetic information. So say
I fully agree with you.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Like
in order for the theory of evolution to be true, for microorganisms to man, you have to have a gargantuan net increase of genetic information. Is that correct?
Where did the word gargantuan come from?
No, like I said, you have
all you have to do is compare the human genome to the least complex genomes of microorganisms,
like I said,
and you will see a monumental leap or a gap in terms of complex information.
Well, it seems like to me, and maybe I'm mischaracterizing this for everyone, it seems like, we're offering an account of, oh, this is how information could build over time, and you're just saying, no, that doesn't answer the question. So, I mean,
no, I asked
if you're not going to allow us to say that over time that these things change, that you can duplicate a segment and then that segment can diverge from its parent segment.
Oh, I understand.
Which, by the
that
way,
things
is ubiquitous
can change.
throughout the human.
I understand that things change, but change doesn't necessarily follow that you're going to have a net increase of complex information.
What do you mean by a net increase of complex information? Because
in order to go from the genome, of E. coli, in order to go from a genome of E. coli to your genome, you have to have a massive increase over time of genetic information.
Okay, so let's say that we have,
you know, some organism and its entire genome gets duplicated. This is not that uncommon, actually. And let's say that, you know, one portion of the copy or copies of a gene end up being, what would it be? They end up being altered in such a way that over time, for a long time, such that the original function of the gene it's useless for the original function of the gene, but it has a new function. Why? What about that is incoherent? I mean, you seem to be suggesting that all at once we need a new gene.
I didn't
say
that was incoherent.
Okay, then then why are we still talking about this?
Because my original question has yet to been answered. What accounts for the specific arrangement in new nucleotide sequences prior to survival?
Okay, there is no prior to survival. Every organism that exists has to survive in some capacity. There's no vacuum in which it does not survive.
What the hell you're talking about. So
okay, so I'll ask people here who have trained. So okay, so I'll ask scientist Sam. So I'll ask scientist Sam. Is there a condition in which? Okay, I am talking. Thank you. I am talking. So scientist Sam, is there a condition in which
you're on ignore?
Okay. So if you're going to play this game, then it's going to be bad for everybody.
Don't ignore people. Don't ignore people.
He's starting already. I'm trying to speak. I've been letting him speak. If he did it again, see?
Yeah. Just let each other finish, guys.
So, no, he's already ignored and blocked me now.
I would say that Dragnot. I mean, obviously he can't hear this, but you know, Dragnot has a correct account of what the case is. If we're talking about biology, we're talking about things that survive.
So that's the issue, and I kept hearing him saying before survival. There is no before survival. There is no vacuum in which these things exist, and that's what I was trying to ask him. And so, I mean, if he wants to play this game and he's upset that I don't coddle him, then that's too bad. Art. I mean, that's why I was trying to tell you, Art, in the side, you know, moderate this dude, do something, because he's just bullying. I mean, I understand you want to coddle the fucking idiot, and it's entertaining to folks, but it comes at a price, you know. This is the issue. This guy knows next to fucking nothing about this subject. Nothing. At all. That's why he had the pretentious attitude to ask Sam his credentials, but then when someone did the exact same thing to him, he became defensive because he knows fucking nothing. At all. I mean, it's just, I don't understand, dude. You know? Tell him to get his shit together if he wants to honestly have a conversation with folks, because he knows nothing.
I mean, it's you know, the way that I see it is, you know, I mean, I took a crack at his question, then Istis took a crack at his question, then I took another crack at his question, and we basically had, in each of those iterations, we had the exact same, you know, we were driving at the exact same thing. And, you know, I think that all three of them were, you know, good answers to the question, but, you know, I'm not...
I think if I agree with scientist Sam, if someone that doesn't understand the subject at least has a grasp of what you're saying, all right, which is me. I have no idea what biology is all about, but I understood what you were saying, and I think also I noticed myself that there was an equivocation between what was it, selection and survival. All right. At some point, Aestus said, "What is this survival? Oh, it's selection. What comes before selection?" This doesn't make any sense to my understanding of evolution.
Right, and I would agree with scientist Sam inquiries into clarifications on the words, because the specific arrangement, again, it's all very vague, and so it does need to be clarified.
Well, I mean, there are interesting things you can say about, for example, you know, codon selection. Like, there's actually really interesting, you know, sort of...
Well, I still go back to...
But that's, I mean, so high level that, I mean, you know, it's something...
I'm sorry to kind of be a stickler, but he's basically ruling out theorems and hypotheses. I think it's legitimate to ask him what his qualifications are to do that. Am I wrong? He's saying if this is impossible. So
what is happening is that we don't have to take him at his word when he says that, and he's not an actual expert in his issues, unless he provides evidence or strong arguments to undermine the whole community, which he hasn't so far. So that's where we are at right now. It's fine if he says there is no mechanism to do so, but that's just that's an opinion of a layman.
Then it's worthless. I'm sorry.
Pretty much, yeah. Hey, Dix. Oh, Dragged Out left. Okay.
Hey, Sam, thanks for taking the time to come and explain a lot of things to us. I learn a lot every time I talk to you, but yeah, it's...
I mean, my goal is just to be as clear as I can with
terms.
And
you were very
a little
clear.
bit of a... the way that I like to think about it is I'm very much an authoritarian when it comes to terminology on low-level stuff, and very much a libertarian when it comes to how to frame high-level stuff. But glad that works.
Well, yeah, you put it in terms we can understand. Like you say, you were talking to an entry-level high school, grade 10, 11, somewhere in that level, and you did very well explaining it. I'm not sure how else to describe it. You and Nace just made it clear to me. I mean, I understand some of the stuff, but some of it I don't. I want to know where this guy's coming from, and he refuses to tell us anything except for paper.
Absolutely. And maybe one of the things I actually wanted to chime in on was the geologic dating, which I couldn't get my microphone turned on at the right time, and the conversation turned to another subject. So evolution asks, okay, so where do we get the composition of the parent material from? And how we know about that is basically from things like samples from deep inside the ground where it's molten, so like lava, or like the plates opening up at the centers of the oceans. Iceland is a beautiful example of this, where it's let me finish this. So Iceland is a perfect example of this, which is actually one of the few places on the Earth which actually has a shelf opening up, but it's actually above ground, and so Iceland is a fantastic field of study for these kind of things. And because we understand the composition of molten metal, of lava and these kind of things, what happens is that a lot of these geologic dating mechanisms use either the trapped gas bubbles or just the known composition of lava in the center of the Earth, and then we do assume that as the parent material, and then go to see if we can derive what daughter material, where this came from and how it came from.
Okay, so you just admitted that the assumed parental atomic state is just an assumption.
Well, again, it's based off of measurements in the real world. So when you talk about assumptions, you usually have the conception of an error metric, or how much in error certain parts of the composition may be, and certain those error bars are quite small on a lot of these assumptions. So yes, right. I mean fundamentally it is an assumption, but
when you have a daughter isotope that is isolated in given rock material, how is it empirically determined what its precise atomic state was when it started to decay in the rock? How is that determined?
Well, are you talking about like the lead and uranium cycle, that kind of stuff?
No,
or?
I'm not asking you about the different radiometric techniques, although they differ because of the different atomic isotopes that they're detecting. Mm-hmm. What they do is they isolate or locate certain isotopes that they call the daughter element. Then, based upon the rate of decay, they calculate backwards to the parental isotope, which no longer exists because it decayed into the daughter element. How is the precise atomic state of the parental isotope determined?
You know what the word constant?
I just told you this. Like I said, so usually, and they don't usually just look at the daughter isotope. They actually look at the ratio between the daughter and the parent isotopes, because that's what gives the actual.
How do you know what the original ratio was?
And like I was gonna say, so the original ratio is usually defined by these vents and these. Wait.
In a given rock, how do you know what the original ratio was?
I'm trying to tell you if you would shut up.
Yeah.
No, he didn't answer my question.
So there's different.
Okay, guys, hold on a second. Hold on. Stop.
You didn't answer my question.
All stop. Point of moderation.
Thank you.
Hopefully, Simon, are you there, buddy? Simon?
Yeah, I am. I've just got back, yeah.
Awesome, dude. Could you please moderate this? I'm not able to pay attention to this.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we can step back a second.
If I may just, Ace, I'd like you just to repeat the point you made without interruption, and I'm going to come
Simon,
down heavier on
If
interruptions.
it's not too much, I'm actually going to get back into the lab in a second. So I have one question for ISIS, just because of my ignorance on
Sure, I'm sure ISIS
finer
would
points.
let you. Go ahead.
So if I'm to understand correctly, the null model for what the ratios should be are based upon what the ratios are in terms of the formation of that specific layer. So if that layer has composition X, and we know that as you were saying, in like the crust and at the the juncture of plates, that composition X has this ratio at formation, we can compare that null against what we're actually seeing in the actual layer. Does that make sense as a question?
Right. Well, that's for the dating. If there's certain decay chains that they have, and so there's also in geology a form of uniformitarianism. So basically, if you have a piece of quartz on one side of the world, it was probably created in exactly the same way that a piece of quartz on the other side of the world was created in. So that because you have this form of uniformitarianism, you can assume that certain geological functions happen the same way to produce these same materials, and most of the time they do.
Okay, ISIS, you still haven't answered my question.
Chemistry and these kind of things work the same way everywhere. But wait. I think that answered your question, Sam.
No, you didn't answer my question. Let me repeat the question. How is the precise atomic state of the parental element determined?
So let me see if I can place this succinctly, Evolution. You're asking if we have element X, and element X has 13 isotopes. If we're using isotope number 13, and that it's not in its ground state, we'll say ground stage 2. So going from 13 to 2, how do we find out what the state is of 2 and just not 13? Is that what you're asking?
I don't understand your illustration. Mike, I'll repeat my question, and I'll try to simplify it as much as possible. In radiometric isotope dating, they isolate a daughter element. Then they calculate it based upon the assumed decay rate. Hold on a second, I'll be right back.
Okay, would you like to preempt what he's saying, just quickly?
Well, see, the thing is with the whole genetic thing, he doesn't. He's being very vague. It's very difficult to try to understand where he's coming from. So.
Did anybody else understand what I was saying about the isotopes and how they decay to the ground state?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't just pulling that out of my ass. Okay, just making sure.
Definitely. Yeah, there's this decay chain. Actually, it's more the decay chain sometimes like a tree, but yeah. Yeah, it's at different rates of decay depending on the isotope or whatever exactly.
the radioactivity.
Most of the time, it goes down one path. Sometimes it'll go down a secondary path, but yeah.
It's almost like we have a chart with these things.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, most of these are all very well known.
Again, Atis, would I be right in thinking that itself is a statistical analysis?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think
all these decay chains are all completely statistical. Yeah, because some say it's because of the way the quantum mechanics work, but it's really to do with the weak force. So the weak force is actually what moderates decay. And so basically, you have these nucleons moving around, and basically, you could almost say that the nucleus kind of stretches at some point, and if it stretches just enough, that's when the weak force kicks in and allows it to break apart into its chunks and stuff. Or and if you can imagine, maybe it's not fully symmetric, that maybe it's kind of like pear-shaped. That sometimes that will cause like a beta decay to happen, right? So a beta decay is much less violent than an actual fission, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and you're referring there to the shape of the molecule, are you?
The nucleus.
The actual nucleus, okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about proton neutron decay or neutron decay.
Yeah. Beta decay, yeah. Exactly.
I'm actually trying to find in my notes here what he's referencing, so I guess I can put it in another form.
He's dropped, of course. He's done the runner.
I'm sorry, man. That's just bullshit, man. I mean, if you put the equation for how to calculate the half-life of a nucleotide, he wouldn't know what to fucking do with that. I'm sorry.
Well, we know that. Viva, I know, and that's kind of what I was getting on earlier. This dude, he doesn't know anything. When it comes to the actual science, especially the mathematics, he doesn't know. That's why he was asking everyone else their credentials. So he wants to condescend to folks, not give up his own credentials or reveal how much he's actually studied the topic. And my issue is that, well, if you want to speak to me on a certain level and a level of condescension, then you need to have some type of clout, some way, shape, or form. But we can sit around here, we can shoot the shit and talk about this subject, and just say, you know what, I have this perspective, and we'll present where we got it from, which is perfectly fucking fine. But he doesn't extend the respect to others that he demands, and I'm not going to back down to some fucking idiot on the internet that feels as though he needs to speak over everyone but doesn't want to be spoken over.
I asked him half a dozen times where he got his definition of just the term evolution, and he refused to tell me. He doesn't accept the ones that scientific community accepts. He has his own variations of them all, and of course, well, we're not going to refute him because he don't understand where he gets his definition from. He won't tell anybody. So clearly he made it up himself.
Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a pattern, and I actually think, Drag, you were right, because the precedent needed to be set early on.
Well, so what is the point? Is it just to frustrate people, or
okay. Just to be honest here, or what I saw, to be honest anyway, was that it was the crosstalk thing because everybody was at the beginning because everybody was assuming we knew exactly what he was talking about. I think he was being necessarily vague in order to give us a runaround, which is why we started getting triggered. But when it calmed down, hang on, let me finish. When it calmed down and everybody shut up and Helena just questioned him about this and that and minor things here and there, that's when the picture started building for everybody to have the more interesting discussion, because he had given us more meat to say you're wrong because of X, Y, Z, right? Let's just recognize that. I think that was quite key, is that people jumped in too soon. I mean, I wrote in the side chat after about 2 minutes, this is all a shield for his pre-sub.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's the same point he tried to make with Drag, right? Like,
I did the same thing.
I have to be able to talk, but goodness knows I'm going to cut you off because I don't value anything you have to say. Clearly, you don't have the credentials to outthink me, right, Drag?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. Even when it comes to credentials, that's something I bring up as a dick waving contest, as someone being a condescending dick. That's really what that is. I don't mind talking to the fucking Nephilim Freeze and whatever, as long as they leave that shit out of there. Because if you don't have what it takes, if you don't have a big dick to swing, don't swing it. That's really my philosophy, and that's why it irritates me a bit to hear guys like this who really. I mean, I gave a succinct explanation of what he was asking for, which is you have an isotope. You have an atom, and then you have its isotopes. Well, these isotopes aren't in the ground state, and they want to get to the ground state.
But isotones, but
yeah, I mean, we're not even gonna get into that. No, but I still need to study up on that. But just for this basic,
no, it's really simple. Isotopes is how many protons you have. Isotones is how many neutrons you have.
Oh God, no! We're just sticking with the basics right now, man. We're trying to just find out, because I think that's what he wanted to know. How do we know in the ground state that number that we get as far as the metric from the ground state of whatever the atom is to the number we get in millions and billions of years? I think that's what he asked for, and that's what I really did a basic. Explanation. At least I thought so. I don't know. He just may think that I'm a poopy head.
Yeah, it's just no. Go ahead.
It's funny.
Just go ahead.
I just make a quick point. He was using that Stephen Jay Gould quote, and then I copied and pasted something from Stephen Jay Gould where he's tired of creationists using his punctuated equilibrium statement because they have no idea what he's talking about. It's like, and he ignored it completely, but whatever.
Well, that's just like the cosmologists. They do that to Guth and Vilenkin. They do that to them too.
Yeah, but he did stop talking about it straight afterwards, James.
I know, it's kind of funny, isn't it?
And I'd be willing to, if he had like a counterfactual argument, I'd be willing to listen to it. But he doesn't make he's just poking the holes, and he's trying to poke holes. I'm like, make your argument. So if you don't believe in evolution, what do you want us to believe? I'm willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore God. I was waiting for him to tell Sam to put God in there every time you couldn't understand what Sam was saying. Therefore God.
Yeah, well, Sty was bringing this up earlier, okay, and he said, well, basically because you want to put God in. And the guy went, no, I didn't bring God into it. But he did bring young Earth creationism into it.
Well, this was the point he was trying to make.
That is God, right there. You're smuggling God in the back door, you know.
Like saying I love Jesus, but without religion.
Yeah, yeah. It's like God, yeah. Yeah. So it's I've seen all of the tactics. He was gish galloping as well at one point, and that's how he started off. That's why I think.
Well, that's why I asked him to make one point.
Yeah, Sty was you and Sty at the beginning. Yeah, were absolutely right to do that.
Yeah, and they can't handle 1 point at a time because they want to try and overwhelm us.
Yeah.
So, but then he asked me my credentials. Well, I'm just looking up definitions on the internet and trying to respond to what he's trying to say, and he's not making.
The funny thing is that actually the usefulness of this is actually much higher than most people assume, because they've done some studies where they took professional doctors and just some guy on WebMD, and the people on WebMD were actually about as accurate as the doctors at diagnosing things. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's all up there.
Yeah. No, but the issue I have with this is he's a
psychiatrist.
He's in a room full of pretty much people that don't believe what he's saying. So if it was a mixed audience where it's like you have people who don't believe, that believe in creation, then this kind of like argument probably muddy the waters kind of thing would work. But like, I don't believe what he's saying, and most people in the room don't. So make an argument. If it's not a keep the faithful kind of argument where he's going against Scientist Sam and half the audience is believer and non-believer. He's in a room full of people that don't believe him. So what is the point of this?
I think it's kind of a Nephilim-free thing. Not a Nephilim-free. Well, actually, part Nephilim-free, part true empiricism. It's a facade to try and make Christians appear more adept at science. I think that's what it is. I don't know.
I don't even give him that much, because he could never back up anything he was actually saying. Like we kept asking him where he was getting his information from, and he couldn't tell us, or wouldn't. So if he wants to present Christians as intellectually dishonest, he did a great job.
Well, that's assuming that a Christian audience actually will recognize the hallmarks of intellectual dishonesty.
I think he showed him to be pretty dishonest throughout the entire video.
No, but that's my point, Drag, is that this audience, it's not like a debate where Scientist Sam and him are like in a church and it's half, mostly Christians, to where he muddies the water and they can go, you know what, he's poked holes in this enough to where, I feel good about what I believe. No, he's in a room full of people that don't believe what he's saying. So
we're not the audience. We're not the audience, though, Viva. Here's the thing. There's about 16, 17 people watching right now. I have it up on another computer. He can take this video later and go, as 13 people watching. He can go, look at what I did. I'm in a room full of atheists, and they couldn't answer these questions. That's powerful propaganda. That is very, very powerful propaganda.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, that's how they use it, and I kind of found that out later after I had been on YouTube for a while. Somebody contacted me and said, "Oh, I saw you in debate with G-Man, and you were having issues answering his questions." I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I saw the video, and it was something I remember, but it went an entirely different way. But from their perspective, if you can't answer someone's question, no matter how malformed it is, then you don't know. And that's the impression that it gives off. So he can give the impression as if he does know the topic, which he doesn't, because having scientist Sam, who's already admitted to having, who's working on his PhD, say, I don't know, that makes him look lesser in the eyes of his potential audience.
Well, true, but he said I don't know because the question doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's honestly not an understatement, a side note more of, because he can say, well, he doesn't know because he's not that well trained, or he's lying about his credentials, or you can really throw in, he's a non-believer, so he's going to lie, or there's lots of ways to hand wave that away.
Yeah, of course, Christians don't ever lie.
Well, someone actually, Christian, said that last night to me in Steve McRae's hangout.
Really?
They lie a lot.
Yeah. Well, no, he straight up said they don't.
Yeah, no, it's a Pharisee lie. It's a different thing altogether.
So, all I know is that I learned an awful lot today. Yeah, and Ace does. They're so smart.
Yeah, Ace.
Can someone broadcast Dex?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. My computer is that slow. I just hit the button.
Beat me to it. I put in the side chat.
Yeah, I wanted to try and talk to I legitimately thought there was something I could learn, because you know what, I haven't taken genetics yet, and I was talking to a few guys last night. So, well, should I take principles of biology or should I take genetics? And it turns out I'm going to be able to take principles of biology first, because the genetics class is going to run into a time slot where I have to go pick up my son from school. So I'm going to have to hold off on that. But from what little I do know and from what little I've read, I don't see the word random cropping up in the context in which theists assert it. And that's for me, is troubling, because then that's saying, all right, well, that's like me taking advice from Nephilim Free. I know he looks at things, but he really doesn't read it.
I did try to get him to explain that to us, but he didn't want to, because I clearly don't understand evolution enough to justify an answer from him.
Well, wait, what was he saying? I think this was before I got on.
It was. It was a long time. This is at the beginning of the conversation, almost 2 hours ago.
I'm trying to remember.
He was talking about the variation being random, and I said, well, define random, and he didn't want to, because I said, well, randomness is in and of itself not how evolution happens. It's not even a...
Well, actually, that's an oversimplification. It's actually a random mutation that's happening that is kind of made non-random by the selection bias. So you see, these mutations and all these kind of things, which chromosomes you get at birth, which sperm cell you get, hitting the egg at birth, all of that is completely random, nearly random. But then there's this non-random selection bias that kind of chooses, quote unquote, the best out of all these random things.
Define how you use the term random so that I understand it better.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't know how he was using it. I mean, he might have been abusing it.
How he was using it is irrelevant. I want to know what you mean by it so that I can clear in my head. If it's something I need to know, then tell me what it means. Then I want to, well, it's not random anymore.
Doesn't that just mean unpredictable, basically?
Okay, well, that's different, because then he's conflating the term random.
Oh, right? How's he using it?
Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we use the word random, I'm randomly throwing the ball, and it could hit 6 walls or 4 walls. You know what I'm saying? It's random. Whereas, what did you say?
Unpredictable?
Unpredictable does not mean random in the same way. Unpredictable, you can't determine, there's no determination beforehand as to how things are going to work, which is what he was trying to say. He was saying that it's all determined. He was trying to bring in the deterministic aspects of
interesting.
So he was using the term random that way.
Because, here, I looked up random. So made, done, happening, or chosen without method or conscious decision. Synonyms: unsystematic, unmethodological, arbitrary, unplanned, undirected, casual, indiscriminate, nonspecific, etc., etc.
Right. So I tried to nail him down for what he meant by that, and he wouldn't tell me. But then he tried to insert some sort of deterministic method or mean of how random mutations happen. I said, well, you can't have both terms in the same sentence. Pick one. I'm trying to explain it to me. Well, do you have a degree? Well, no, I don't. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's this non-random selection bias. I mean, the selection bias may be different depending on the environment, but it's definitely, non-random, or at least less random than mutation.
I got the impression that he was using the term random as just arbitrary. I kind of got that impression.
That's kind of what I thought he was meaning too, and then throwing deterministic in there because.
See, but the thing is again, evolution, you can still make arbitrary changes to the genome. Some of them may be deleterious, some of them may be helpful. Most of them are of no consequence, changing hair color, changing skin color, that kind of stuff. Then you have the selection bias like I was speaking about. But I don't know. So yes, it can be arbitrary. It doesn't change the mechanism.
Right. But what he was saying was that the mechanism has some deterministic aspect to it, that something is guiding it. That's what he was trying to insert God there.
Right, like there's this hand of God that's coming in and like, boop, all right, I flipped one nucleotide, going down the line, bloop, next one.
At one point he brought up Francis Crick, or Francis Collins. He was the director of the Gene Project, right? Who's an evangelical Christian, and so he said, well, he believes in all of he's a Christian and believes this. I said, okay, so why do you quote him as an authority on the genome, yet disagree with him that evolution is the way it says it is, that Darwinian evolution is what it is? Because you're using him as an authority in one part of it, but rejecting him in another part. How can you use him as an example of anything? And he just kind of ignored it.
Well, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, I have people that I have mixed feelings about, where I agree with some of the things they say and I disagree with other things. But what I would ask Evolution False is, okay, where's the mechanism for this? Where is this deterministic mutation coming from? I mean, is it literally the hand of God, or is there something that we can observe and quantify?
That's what him and Sam were trying to get into.
I see. Yes, that makes sense.
What I was trying to figure out is that he was. It's like, okay, we can play the pedantic game, randomness, non-randomness, things happen, whatever. But what was really, I guess, bugging me was the fact that he was stating that there was some type of state or condition to which things were not subject to survival, and I legitimately wanted him to answer that. Well, I'm not sure if did you hear the exchange between him and Sam? And
no, I heard a little bit before I came in, like probably the first 10 minutes, and then I got the spot I'm in now.
Okay, it was. I'm trying to remember it. It was something to the effect of, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, that you would need a net gain and genetic information and one of the methods of mutation in order to propagate a species. But how are you going to, I guess, assess this where there is no need for survival, or there is no instances of the organism in a survival situation?
How do you count?
I mean, well, we do have kind of examples like that. One really good example was there was some caribou that were thrown on an island in Alaska, and this island had no natural predators whatsoever. And what happened was that their population exploded and then crashed. So and there was no real significant natural selection, because and one of the reasons why the population crashed was because they ate all the vegetation on the island. At first it was just paradise. There's all this vegetation that they could eat, no natural predators. But as soon as they ate all the vegetation, they all starved to death.
I would more argue that is an example of not a lot of selective pressures.
Like population dynamics more than anything? Or,
yeah, I wouldn't say. I think what he was going toward was some type of ideal scenario in which you would kind of need a agent of some sort, in order to kind of spark what's needed that we know now as speciation.
I mean, isn't that Darwin's finches? I mean, that's what that's about. That's the type of vegetation put a pressure on a certain type of beak size that was advantageous for that island, and that's what I mean. That's what's so hard about that. I mean, I'm not even I mean, come on.
Well,
He knows that.
That's microevolution. There is no new information injected in there. Aren't I sounding like a creationist now?
You got that shit down. All right. But anyway, it's been fun, ladies and gents. I'm going to head off and play some Minecraft.
Nice. Yeah, cheers.
Right, see ya. Moderate the damn room, Art.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, I gotta head out as well. I've got some stuff to do. It was nice talking.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
See you later.
Thanks, Art.
Yeah, see you guys. Yeah.
Everybody's leaving, Art. What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe there's some other hangout.